And a bit of a breeze as well, making it feel a bit cooler here. See high pressure sat to the north of the UK, so an easterly breeze, drawing in some cooler air from the North Sea. But the further south and west you are, it will be warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. Through into the evening time, we can see some low cloud drifting back inland across parts of northern England into eastern Scotland. But elsewhere overnight it stays dry and clear, and with some lighter winds, we'll see a few mist and fog patches forming. Temperatures falling to low single figures across northern parts in particular. Patchy frost possible in the countryside as well. But that does mean a lovely start to Sunday for most of us. So zooming in across Scotland, we do have some low cloud first thing though across the north and the east. This will slowly start to burn away and allow coastal stretches to become sunnier. But elsewhere, dry and sunny to start Sunday morning. Northern Ireland and northern England, a few mist and fog patches first thing, but this soon clearing. Low cloud perhaps over Wales, this soon clearing as well. Lots of sunshine across the rest of the country. A bit chilly though, but temperatures soon rising as the sun does too, and through the day most places having plenty of blue skies. Lots of sunshine to come, moderate UV levels across the country though. The sunshine turning hazy at times across northern England into Scotland. Low clouds still affecting Orkney and Shetland here, and temperatures a little chilly across eastern coastal, 10, 11, 12 Celsius, but further south and west reaching 18, 19 Celsius in that sunshine. So well above where they should be for the time of year, which should be around about 12 or 13 degrees. Temperatures start dropping away again Sunday evening and overnight, allowing a patchy frost in places, but high pressure holding on through much of next week. It stays dry and sunny, and temperatures still above average. See you soon.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Tomorrow on GB News Breakfast, we've got a treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the Broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon. Tomorrow from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 3 o'clock. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. For the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me today is broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also CEO of Youth Vote UK, Alex Cairns. Right, coming up, we'll be discussing lots. The UK car industry. The maker, Jaguar Land Rover, is the first to pause £6.5 billion of shipments of its cars to America as Trump's tariffs take effect. In the Great British debate, I'm asking, how worried should you be about Donald Trump's tariffs? Then, our Labour eco-hypocrites. Ed Miliband has been slammed after his net zero department slurged more than £40,000 in UK flights in Labour's first 6 months in power. Royal biographer Angela Levin will be joining me live to find out what's going on behind the Palace wall. Stay tuned, all of that on the way. But first, let's get your latest news headlines.
Hi there, very good afternoon to you. Thank you, Nana. It's just after 3 o'clock. Our breaking news, Jaguar Land Rover is pausing shipments of its British-made cars to America as the fallout from President Trump's tariffs hits the global economy. Now, the company says it needs time to consider the new trading terms of Trump's 25% tariff. Exports to the US for JLR account for almost a quarter of their 400,000 annual sales. Their Range Rover Sport, Defenders, other models, and it's owned by Tata Motors of India. It says the temporary pause will last for a month while it develops plans for the future. Well, JLR's decision comes after Thursday's 25% levy on all cars imported into the States, with the baseline 10% tariff coming into effect today. Donald Trump announced the measures earlier this week on his so-called Liberation Day, claiming the days of the US being ripped off are over. JP Morgan, the investment firm, have warned that the odds of a global recession have now gone from 40% to 60%, saying that there will be blood. Meanwhile, America and China declared a trade war yesterday. Sir Keir Starmer, he's expected to spend this weekend speaking to global leaders as they try to navigate through the new era. In the last hour or so, we have heard confirmation that the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will visit Washington, D.C. to discuss tariffs, among other things. And this is a flavour of what's going to be happening in the UK and indeed elsewhere in the world. These are anti-tariff demonstrations, anti-Trump demonstrations taking place. This one in central London, but there are many planned for across the United States, which tie in with those anti-Tesla, anti-Elon Musk tariffs. We'll bring you live pictures from the UK and around the world as we go through the day here on GB News. From tomorrow, new parents with a child in neonatal care will be entitled to an additional 12 weeks of leave and pay on top of parental leave if they're eligible. The leave will apply to parents of babies who are admitted into neonatal care up to 28 days old and who have a continuous stay in care for 7 full days or longer. The Department of Business and Trade says the measure will aim to relieve some pressure on working families. Prematurity charities say they're delighted with the right coming into force after years of campaigning. A US government department says it's disappointed by the conviction of a UK campaigner who protested outside an abortion clinic. Olivia Tosici-Bolt was sentenced to a 2-year conditional discharge after breaking a public spaces protection order on 2 occasions. The 64-year-old held a sign saying, "Here to talk if you want," near the clinic in March last year. When GB News spoke to the lawyer who represented Olivia Tosici-Bolt about this earlier on, we'll bring you more of that a little bit later. It's Grand National Day, if you haven't noticed. Racegoers gearing up at Aintree today. It's getting underway, well, in just an hour's time or so. Thousands expected to fill the stands as always. Looks like they've got the weather for it too. Now, the countdown is on. 34 horses set to race in the prestigious event. Last year's winner, I Am Maximus, looking good with the bookmakers. This will be the greyest, though, in living memory, with 7 grey horses accounting for more than 20% of the field. The lucky winner will take home in excess of £500,000. And I mentioned that nice warm weather. Well, those dry conditions expected to last around the country for the whole of next week. Good news. Above average temperature expected from this weekend until next. However, that does increase the risk of wildfires. Today, you can expect highs of 21 degrees in parts of the southeast. The Met Office says the sunshine is getting stronger every day. So enjoy it if you're outside. If you are, you probably won't be watching this. We'll be back with more in a little bit. Now it's over to Nana.
Good afternoon and welcome. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, UK-based car maker Jaguar Land Rover is the first to pause £6.5 billion of shipments of its cars to America as Donald Trump's tariffs take effect. But can our Prime Minister strike a deal? Then in the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should you be worried about Donald Trump's tariffs? Then next, the Great British Debate, are Labour eco-hypocrites? Ed Miliband has been slammed after his net zero department splurged more than £40,000 on UK flights in Labour's first 6 months in power. And royal biographer Angela Levin will be here to give me the latest from behind the palace walls. On the menu, King Charles is dragged into Prince Andrew's Chinese spy scandal. All of that on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/yoursay. So Jaguar Land Rover is one of the first. It is pausing shipments of its British-made cars to America as the fallout from Donald Trump's tariffs reverberate around the global economy. Stock markets around the world have plunged to new lows, with London's FTSE 100 suffering the worst day's losses seen since, 5 years. But the US president is so far refusing to walk back on the tariffs, insisting instead that only the weak will fall. Well, earlier on, we spoke to Reform UK leader Nigel Farage about Donald Trump's imposition of tariffs.
I've written a piece in today's Daily Telegraph where I actually think this is a very...
Oh, where's he gone? Something to Nigel. I wanted to hear that, didn't you? Listen, we'll try and bring it back to you in a moment, but let's bring in motorist journalist and one of my wonderful panellists, car dealer, Danny Kelly. I always call him a salesman, but he likes to be called a dealer. He is a dealer. Of course you are, Danny. Hey, Danny Kelly. Danny Kelly. You all right? You all right?
Nana, great to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. OK, now, this is serious stuff, these tariffs. First of all, do they affect you in any way?
No, they don't affect. I'm a second-hand car dealer, but I do have friends who work for Jaguar Land Rover now. And Jaguar Land Rover, who are just 20 minutes away from where I'm speaking to you from, they employ a lot of people on short-term contracts. And if this continues, then there'll be a lot of people worried about their jobs, because America is the biggest market, more so than the European Union, more so than Great Britain, more so than China. They buy about 110,000 Land Rover products every 12 months. Now, nobody in America, I would suggest, is going to place an order for a Land Rover product which is in excess of, say, $100,000, knowing that they're going to have to pay another $25,000 on it. I'd be worried about Donald Trump in case he rows back on it. And then, of course, no one's going to fulfill an order, Nana, if they think that it's going to be 25% less. And Jaguar Land Rover, believe me, they will have thousands of cars, left-hand drive cars, just sitting there waiting at docks around England and the United Kingdom, because they won't have anyone to sell them to,
Left-hand drive cars. Left to get it. Yeah. Listen, to be honest, aren't they the high-end consumer? That most people who can afford one of those high-end cars, Bentleys, Jaguars, those sort of cars, Range Rovers, they've got a bit more money than the others. If anyone can weather the storm or the tariff, surely it's them.
Very true. And don't forget, you've also got Rolls-Royce, Bentley, and these are £500,000.
Exactly. An extra 25 grand.
Products.
What's that to them?
Well, on a Rolls-Royce, it might be an extra 100,000. Don't forget, these people, they've accumulated their wealth because they're not stupid. They've made sensible decisions, generally speaking, unless they're being gifted their millions, of course. But generally speaking, if I was minted and if I wanted to buy a Jaguar product in America, I'd say, well, hang on, I'll give it 2 or 3 months. I'll continue driving my current Range Rover Vogue. I'll give it a couple of months and see if Trump rows back on the 25%. But there'll be a lot of people, Nana, who are on short-term contracts, because if Jaguar Land Rover can't dispose of these cars, they will have thousands of left-hand drive products, and if they can't sell them to America, then they're going to have to try and sell them to China. They're going to have to try and sell them to the European Union, and in order for them to sell them to the European Union, China, they're going to have to maybe put special incentives on those products, otherwise they're not going to sell them.
Yeah,
and then if they put special incentives, forgive me, after you.
But isn't that just trade? That's how it works. That's how bartering goes. You negotiate, you have a deal, and then you go through with whatever that deal is. Surely in a capitalist society, one where we've all demanded the right to be able to speak and do what we like and allow the market economy and market forces to drive everything, pardon the pun, surely that's life. That's how it works.
Yeah, it is. It's the rough side of capitalism. But also, Nana, if I worked at JLR, I would have the confidence in the product. Because don't forget, Trump is putting 25% on everything from outside of America. And I can tell you, there is no American equivalent of a Range Rover. There's no American equivalent of a Bentley, no American equivalent of a Rolls-Royce. To go back to your earlier point, if somebody in America wants something that is quintessentially British, the very best of the British brand, then they will pay an extra 25%. My only caveat with that, Nana, is I think they're going to wait to see if Trump does a U-turn. And if he doesn't do a U-turn, then they'll pay the extra 25%, generally speaking, because their second-hand product, when that car goes into a showroom as a part exchange in the future, it will be worth 25% more. Now, that is capitalism. That's basic business common sense.
And also the idea that you can't find other markets to sell your products to that will be more profitable to you. You've had it nice and good one way. Now that's changed. You have to find another route. That is what a capitalist economy is. That is what you do as a person who owns a big brand like Jaguar Land Rover. And that company's been going for many years. I'm sure they'll find a way around it. And I think it's a bit of, like, OK, I get it that it's a lot of money all at once. It's a jump. It's a bit like the VAT on private schools. Suddenly, you're paying this extra waff of cash. But do you know what I mean? You live or die by the sword. That's it, really.
Yeah, but Nana, if you were an American consumer of a great British product like a Rolls-Royce, would you spend an extra $100,000 and fulfill an order if you wondered whether it was going to be U-turned in 6 months' time?
Oh, it depends. I mean, like, if I was super wealthy, I don't think I'd be that bothered about it.
OK,
and I'm sure that the one good thing in terms of the tariffs is that it is likely to impact on interest rates, to bring interest rates down. So that is another way where, and it'll be a global behaviour as well. So for the consumer, we are likely to be seeing big cuts in interest rates as well. Although they're worried it might push inflation, the bottom line is no one has any money. So dropping interest rates would be a good move, and that would be good for everybody, really. Well, most of us.
Yeah,
anyway.
There are ramifications all around the world. But again, if you've got enough dough to buy a £500,000 Rolls-Royce, you're maybe not going to need it on a low-rate finance. Maybe you've got the money up front to buy it. But yeah, there will be consequences. But also, just go back to an earlier point, Tata, an Indian company who own Jaguar Land Rover, they're incredibly wealthy, fabulously wealthy. Yeah. But the Jaguar Land Rover plants, Nana, would not have seen this coming. So when they forecast and when they do their forecasts and their financial planning for the next 2 or 3 years, and they employ people based on what they think they're going to be able to sell to the biggest market, which is America, and all of a sudden that market disappears, then that is something that nobody would have taken into account or expected. And my concern is for the contractors and the staff at JLR, because, you know, if you're going to sell 25% fewer cars, then you're potentially going to need 25% fewer workforce.
I don't know. I think they'll be fine. I've got a sneaky feeling that somehow something good will come out of this, and that Donald Trump... What do you think about Donald Trump's position, though? Do you think he's making the right decision? Because ultimately, many companies like Jaguar Land Rover may well move their production to within the United States to avoid any export costs.
That's correct. In fact, Hyundai, they actually, about 6 weeks ago, before the Trump announcement about the tariffs, they actually invested, listen to this, Nana, $20 billion by moving a plant to Louisiana. I think it's in the South, Louisiana. And there you go. And Trump used this as an example. Listen, if you want 25% tariffs to disappear overnight, come over here and make your cars. And that's what Hyundai have done.
That's very... I frankly think it's brilliant. I think he knows exactly what he's doing, and anybody who underestimates him in the way and thinks, oh, he's just going to do this and do that, I think it's all calculated, and I think there is a deal to be done. I reckon he will lower the deal in the UK, but Keir Starmer's going to have to work for it. Danny Kelly, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's the brilliant Danny Kelly. Right, well, earlier we did speak to Reform UK leader Nigel Farage about Donald Trump's imposition of tariffs, and this is what he had to say.
I've written a piece in today's Daily Telegraph where I actually think this is a very important moment. The fact that Trump gave us 10% tariffs, which, by the way, is not good, but the fact that he gave us 10%, not 20%, kind of shows you the world now views us differently, that we've left the European Union. We now have got to take that opportunity. Let's now do Brexit properly. Let's become more competitive than any other country in Europe, and we can do that by getting rid of so much EU regulation, something we failed to do completely under the last Conservative government.
That was Nigel Farage earlier. Well, joining me now is former Financial Times journalist Alan Friedman. Alan, thank you and welcome. Thank you for coming on. Alan, let's start with these tariffs. How bad do you think they will impact the United Kingdom?
Well, I listened to your earlier guests, and I believe that you're being too optimistic, both in what you said and what your guests, the second-hand dealers, said. And I think the most important point made, if we're talking about the UK, is that either because they're thinking maybe if I wait, it comes down, or because it doesn't come down, I believe it is inevitable that as the United States slips into recession, as consumers are reluctant to buy, it's not the very super rich billionaires who spend £500,000 for a Rolls Royce or Bentley that we're worried about. It's the Jaguar market, where they're as low as $40,000 or $50,000 at the smaller, medium-sized market, and their middle-class families in America are not going to pay another $15,000 or $20,000 easily. So I think the real risk here for UK car makers is increased unemployment and layoffs, and I believe those are unavoidable. But let me zoom back from the UK economy and give you a global perspective. I spoke to a very important US lobbyist in Washington who represents American industries that have more than $1 trillion of business a year. They're importers, right? And this lobbyist, who's an influential right-wing conservative Republican, said to me, we are having emergency meetings. We believe that we are almost certainly going to face a recession. We believe that the US economy will be in trouble. We believe that this will spread to a global economic slowdown. In America, not only will it lead to inflation and potentially stagflation. You know what stagflation is? It's when prices inflation. The economy is going down. And that we haven't had since the 1970s. That is a real possibility in the United States, maybe not in Britain. But the knock-on effects of a US recession are a global recession. And what that means is that with all the will in the world, we can't wish this to go away. Now, the real information I want to share with you today is that when I spoke, not going to name this person, but when I spoke to this top US lobbyist in Washington, I said, well, what can you do? How does this end? What's the solution? And he said, Trump doesn't want to negotiate for now. He wants to let these tariffs run for a while because he thinks that if you raise enough money with tariffs, you can avoid having Americans pay income tax, which of course doesn't make economic sense because in the United States, we have an economy that has $22 trillion a year of income tax receipts. And the maximum that tariff money could bring is about $3 trillion. So unfortunately, the reason why I'm worried for America and for the UK and for the rest of the world is I don't think there is any quick fix here. And I believe we're going into uncharted waters. And the last time we had tariffs this high was 130 years ago, and then again in 1930, and that produced the Great Depression. So I'm seriously worried that, I know we disagree on this, but hey, you invited me to your show. I believe Trump doesn't know what he's doing. And I think the first proof you'll see of that, here's a prediction for you on GB News, is the resignation of the Treasury Minister, the American Chancellor of the Exchequer, which I predict Scott Bessent will resign shortly because he's flabbergasted and he's embarrassed and he's going to go. And this is no naive guy. You know who the US Chancellor of the Exchequer is, Scott Bessent? He's the guy who broke the Bank of England with George Soros in 1992. So he's really a speculator. And if he's worried, I'm worried.
I don't know. You said, I mean, one of the things you said was that there was never going to be, that this wasn't a quick fix. Well, there was never going to be a quick fix. Nothing, you know, this whole thing is a bit of a mess. Somebody needs to disrupt the global order of things, and this could be a way of doing it. Also, yeah, it's uncharted waters, but isn't pretty much everything that's happening right now, the pandemic, all these different things, for us, those of us in this century, this is all uncharted waters. But sometimes you need to go into uncharted waters to try and find some other solution, because it, frankly, wasn't working. But it's not working, Alan. The way it's been going isn't working at all.
Let me comment on that. The United States economy is not in trouble. It's been going very well. As The Economist magazine of your country said yesterday, this is the greatest instance of self-harm ever seen. And there's a more basic economic principle here that I think I'd like to share with you, and you can disagree, but I believe it's a fact rather than an opinion, which is trade measures like tariffs in history, in the last few decades and centuries, they never work. They don't bring economic revival. It's a lose-lose proposition. There are no winners from trade wars. Everybody loses on both sides, because if you get an escalation, then obviously you lose more jobs. And if you don't escalate, you just suffer the consequences. So my opinion is based on history, not on my opinion, that since everybody loses, it's a zero-sum game when trade wars occur, we are doing unnecessary damage to ourselves in America.
Okay.
And there we are.
You think? Well, I am, as you said, more optimistic than that. I don't think it's a lose-lose. I think that somebody needed to disrupt the global order. We've been going in the wrong direction for a very long time, and there's been nobody brave enough to try and at least disrupt it and get people to think differently. So,
would you invite me back to your show 3 months from now? And if at that point everybody's losing and we're having problems, will you at least say, Alan, you were right? And if you were right and things are going well, I'll say, no, you were right. How about that?
No, because I'll invite you on, but this is the thing. I don't think it's fixable in 3 months. I think it's a far more long-term...
6 months.
6 months, definitely. We can talk then again, but I'll bring you back on before that because we can keep chatting. But for me, I absolutely believe that Trump is heading in the right direction. First of all, because he's opening the table to negotiations. And secondly, because if these tariffs go the way they are, it is likely to bring down interest rates, which is a good thing for a lot of people. And I think we need to see that coming down to try and encourage growth. He's also encouraging growth in his own country. And I'm not sure whether that's been factored into your equation as to how devastating the tariffs will be.
Well, if we see negotiations and you manage to get Trump to make this go away, I'll eat my hat.
Well, you're not wearing one at the moment. You can eat my wig. Thank you very much, Alan Friedman. Really good to talk to you. He's a former Financial Times journalist. Right, let's cross over to central London quickly, where an anti-Donald Trump protest is taking place. You see, this is, you know, I just find this ridiculous. He's allowed to put tariffs on things. They can protest, but this is not going to have any effect at all. They're also protesting in Paris as well. Yes, it'll be interesting. We will have a look there. They're protesting because they're not happy that the world order has been changed and somebody's come in and done something they don't like. Well, look, I get it. It could make the place poorer, but at the end of the day, America has to act in its own best interests and not those of the rest of the world, as we should in this country. We've not taken advantage of Brexit. I slightly envy the Americans for at least having a leader that's prepared to throw the dice and see if they can do something better for the country. So we'll keep you posted on all those protests, but 23 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, my first Great British Debate. How worried should we be about Trump's tariffs? This is GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
First of all, Are we talking about the West and the East, or is this a Western phenomenon?
Wholly Western phenomenon, which excludes China, where things are still in a healthy state.
What's happening in the West, then?
It's been going on for quite a while, and it started with the universities, and then affected the biennales conferences. Basically, it's this left drift, and the sense that, as in Vogue, we should care about the downtrodden, the marginal groups, the global south. We should criticize what's going on, and there's a sense of illegitimacy with everything which now is developed in most of the real-world developments we are, for instance, doing, as being neoliberal architecture. And so the discourse is shifting away, ignoring that and saying this is fallen, this is commercial, this is compromised. And we have a discourse about another world caring and looking after those who have been discriminated against. And that pulls a discourse and critical debate away from what's going on. And therefore what's going on is bereft of critique, of exposure, of debate, and becomes a craft.
We are looking at, on the screen at the moment, at some of the great buildings that you have been involved in. So tell me about the background to these. I mean, you were one of the architects here. What was your education? What was your inspiration? What led you to create buildings that look like that?
So I was originally educated in Stuttgart, Germany. I came here as a student, went to the South Bank University in exchange program, and as a student joined Zaha Hadid, was a rising star in the field. And at that time, there was really a thriving discourse in architecture, grappling with this new world.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Right, well, let's get stuck in. 27 minutes after 3 o'clock. This is GB News. It's time for the Great British Debate. It's the first one. I'm asking, should we be worried about Donald Trump's tariffs? Jaguar Land Rover pausing shipments of its British-made cars to America. Lots of things going on. Global stocks left reeling after they suffered a pounding for the second day in a row. The FTSE suffered its worst day of trading in 5 years. I'm asking, should we be worried about Donald Trump's tariffs? Well, joining me to discuss, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and CEO of Youth Vote UK, Alex Cairns. All right, Alex Cairns, I'm coming to you first.
Well, yeah, I'm worried.
Why?
And I think most consumers are going to be worried because in the short term, everyone knows that when you put up tariffs and when you go into a bidding war between countries, and obviously different prime ministers and presidents will have their perspective as to what percent, I know that Starmer hasn't responded yet. In the short term, it's the consumers that get hit. Now, I know that people are going to be saying the whole strategy about this is, can we get to a point where American consumers are only buying or using American products or services? So I get the logic, but in practice, it's very, very complicated because it's supply and demand. People might want to shop only American, but if it's too expensive, they just won't be able to afford it, And I think
then they'll buy something cheaper and Donald Trump will have to, or those companies will have to bring down their prices for things.
But
That's how it works.
No, but in the short term, let's say, he's saying about the car thing is a very good example, actually. He's saying, I only want people to buy American cars, right? But again, it's very, very complicated because even American cars might have parts that are built and shipped in from abroad, right? So in practice, it's very, very complicated just to have the whole America First model to multiple sectors where we're all intertwined.
Won't that eventually result in America being more self-sufficient? So some of the products that they're buying from China at a ridiculously low cost initially, where there's slave labour and all those sort of things, and people aren't paid properly, those countries won't be able to get away with that because people won't be buying their goods. Lizzie Cundy, what do you think?
Well, everyone's in a panic, aren't they, calling him Donald Slump? I think we've all got to calm down and take a breather. And I've got to say, thank God, and you never said it, we're not in the EU. Thank heavens for Brexit. 20%. and we're only at 10%. But the one thing, Keir Starmer can walk around like this proud peacock, all he likes, like he's the great statesman. He's not doing us justice. Why hasn't he picked up the phone to Nigel Farage and said, please help us, we can negotiate down to 5%? Nigel is friends with Donald Trump. All this Labour Party have ever done is slate him in the past. We could possibly get an even better deal.
Although Nigel wasn't invited to that special party for Donald Trump, was he? He was invited to the one that most people were invited to, as in the dignitaries, but he didn't get a place in the actual...
They're not that close, are they?
No, they are close, and I know Nigel, and I've seen the correspondence. They are close. Just because he wasn't there at that party doesn't mean that he couldn't negotiate a better deal. And look, we know he doesn't agree with anything Keir Starmer says. I don't know many of us that do. But he could have actually, said, look, for the great of this country, we need Nigel's help, and I think he would have.
But he doesn't need Nigel's help. The 10% rate is, we've got one of the better deals of all the countries. If you see that list...
Keir Starmer, it's nothing to do with Keir Starmer that we got that 10%. It possibly
who's it to do with then?
Well, I think actually Donald Trump has a real fondness for this country because of the royal family, and I think that's got a lot to do with it.
He likes the fact that, look, Donald Trump is urging us to take advantage of Brexit. He's made that quite clear. He also hates the EU. He's made that very clear.
Well, they haven't treated him very well.
Well, they haven't treated anybody very well. They did not treat the United Kingdom very well when we left. We're entitled to leave, and they should have had a bit more respect, and they could have been a lot more diplomatic, because they weren't prepared to give us a free trade agreement either. So they themselves complaining, I find it somewhat ironic.
Well, it was a mess on both sides, wasn't it? I mean, the negotiation in the UK and the negotiation on their side was absolutely... It took way too long. It was very messy. And also, it's very delicate, because I know that you two are very in favour of it. A big portion of the country are still not in favour of it.
Well, less than half, though.
But you can't go into a negotiation and just, force through a free trade deal when actually, a portion of the country didn't want it. It's a very delicate situation.
Well, a free trade deal they did want. I think we could all agree, whether you voted to leave or remain, that a free trade deal would be preferable. We'd all would like that.
No, I don't agree.
No, I think most of us would. I voted to leave. I'd like a free trade deal with the EU. Doesn't mean I'm going to sacrifice things like freedom of movement or being in the customs union, but it's wise for us both to have a zero-sum game. If they don't want to do that, then that's not really great, is it? That's their own.
I think fair play to Rishi Sunak. The Winter Framework Agreement was much better, and he did better work at making sure that actually we had a better kind of negotiation. But actually, I think a lot of the country wanted a customs union agreement, actually.
No, they didn't.
Well, look, I think we've got to remember this country voted for Brexit, and that's what...
By a narrow margin, yeah.
It was one of the biggest, and they...
That's called democracy.
Well, it's called democracy.
When it suits you, yeah.
But, yeah, we're going to have your Rachel Reeves go, our economy is in tatters. It's all because of Donald Trump's tariffs. Just waiting for that, for her to go harping on about that, despite, all their lies and, saying they're going to smash the gangs when they're not doing absolutely anything. And, we're on our knees as an economy, so let's not blame Trump.
It's not democracy when it suits us. It is democracy. So it worked in our favour. It could have worked against us, and I would have accepted that as well. So had it been 52-48 the other way around, I would have accepted that, because that's how democracy works. That's how we do things. But unfortunately, the government that we had at the time, and also even this government, don't appear to want to take advantage of the fact that the British public as a whole, and remember, it was the largest proportion of people coming out to vote, voted to leave the EU. That's what we voted to do. And right now, it's beneficial. And even if you voted leave or remain, you'd have to admit that. Well, listen, stay with us. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, are Labour eco-hypocrites? First, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks very much indeed, Nana. Good afternoon to you. Our top story. Jaguar Land Rover is pausing shipments of its British-made cars to America as the fallout from President Trump's tariffs continues. The company says it needs time to consider the new trading terms of the 25% tariff. Now, exports to the US account for almost a quarter of JLR's 400,000 annual sales of models like the Sport, the Defender, and some of their other cars. Now, Jaguar Land Rover is owned by India's Tata Motors. It says the temporary pause will last for a month while it develops plans for the future. And there's a protest against Donald Trump and his administration taking place, well, not just in central London, where these pictures are, but elsewhere around the world. This is called Hands Off. We can bring you to Paris very briefly as well. There's the Paris protest. Now, Hands Off is all about fighting back against Trump's plans to take Canada, Greenland, Panama, as well as tariffs. These protests have been arranged elsewhere in the world, so when America starts waking up, we'll bring you pictures from across the United States and elsewhere as the day goes on here on GB News. Now, from tomorrow, new parents with a child in neonatal care will be entitled to an additional 12 weeks of leave and pay on top of parental leave if they're eligible. It will apply to parents of babies who are admitted into neonatal care up to 28 days old and who have a continuous stay in care for 7 full days or longer. The government says it's to relieve some pressure on working families. A man's been charged with murder after a 16-year-old boy was stabbed in the neck in a town centre. The incident occurred in Ramsden Street, Huddersfield, Thursday afternoon. West Yorkshire Police saying the 20-year-old Alfie Franco will appear at Leeds Magistrates Court on Saturday. The National Fire Chiefs Council has warned it needs long-term and sustained investment to cope with the increased demand on its services after firefighters were battling wildfires across the UK this week. This year, the UK has seen 286 wildfires, which is more than 100 more than recorded in the same period just 3 years ago, a year that saw record-breaking temperatures. These pictures are of wildfires in Dorset that took place a couple of days ago. Dramatic, but no doubt terrifying for anyone close by. Warm and dry weather, of course, this week, which brings particular concern. There was a blaze in Galloway in Scotland, which spanned an area of 1.5 miles. That was on Friday. The King and Queen will spend their 20th wedding anniversary as guests of honour at a state banquet held in Rome. King Charles and Queen Camilla will be attending a black tie dinner held as part of the couple's 4-day state visit to Italy next week. The King first met his wife on a polo field in 1970 after he just left Cambridge University, and it was just before he joined the Royal Navy. Grand National Day as well. Race goers gearing up at Aintree. It's all getting underway very shortly. Thousands of people, as always, will be in the stands. And you've just about got enough time to get a bet on if you do that online or indeed down the bookmakers. 34 horses set to race. Last year's winner, I Am Maximus, still looking strong with the bookmakers. And here's a stat for you. More grey horses in this race than in living memory. 7 of them accounting for 20% of the field. The lucky winner, the lucky race owner, I should say, in excess of £500,000 they take home. We'll bring you up to date with the result a little bit later this afternoon.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Tomorrow on GB News Breakfast, we've got a treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the Broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon. Tomorrow from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there short and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
West
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Welcome back. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Let's get stuck into the Great British debate. Are Labour eco-hypocrites? Ed Miliband has been slammed for astonishing hypocrisy after his department splurged more than £40,000 on UK flights in Labour's first 6 months. The Energy and Net Zero Secretary spent more on domestic travel than his Tory predecessor, despite urging us Brits to fly less whilst in opposition. So what do you think? I'm asking, are Labour eco-hypocrites? Joining me, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy and CEO of Youth Vote UK, Alex Cairns. Lizzie Cundy, be kind.
Well, does a one-legged duck swim in a circle? Is the Pope Catholic? Oh, dear Nana, the hypocrites. All of them are hypocrites. I don't know where to start. I mean, I'll be here all day. Let's start with David Lammy, shall we? He spent more than £1 million on private jets. The man who said he was going to crack down on these expensive ministerial flights. But no, he spent actually £1.2 million. And what's that doing to our environment? Alex, what have you got to say about that? I am shocked. One thing after another. When their lips moved, they lie. It really is. I mean, they were going to be the government that was going to get rid of cronyism.
Well, they would say that they're not lying. What they're doing is trying to bring down things to net zero, and they need to go to these important meetings like COP28 in Brazil, where they've mowed through the Brazilian rainforest to create a 4-lane motorway so people can get to the conference. These people need to talk. It's a talking shop. They need to talk about climate. Obviously, we're on 28, or is it 29 or 30? That's 30 years of this nonsense.
This is nonsense. This is absolute nonsense. Alex, surely you can see this. Please, someone help me.
All I would say is, before Labour came into power, the Conservatives for many years were doing the same thing. Now, look, two wrongs don't make a right. I don't want to see where Ed Miliband can get the train, he should get the train, right? The problem is, everyone knows in this country, you know, I recently went to Edinburgh, right? It was much cheaper for me to fly than to get the train. So I'm not going to be a hypocrite and sit here on live television and say that everyone should get the train when I know that it's about £200 return to go to Edinburgh. It's ridiculous. So we can't be expecting, especially if they're going up for important meetings, to always be getting the train or driving. Now, the broader point is, yes, I don't like to see, not just Labour, by the way, Tories, it doesn't matter who's in power, I don't want to see anyone, unless they really need to, spending taxpayers' money on private jets, on things that are unnecessary, right? But I just don't think you can compare, because I think Conservative ministers for many, many years were spending money on the same thing, and Labour are doing it in not the same sort of scale. We're talking about two ministers, by the way, not the whole cabinet. The Tories was a whole cabinet.
Keir Starmer's got the biggest footprint ever of any Prime Minister. He's had over 25 international flights.
But you guys would moan if he's not going abroad, you would moan if he is.
No, he's been globetrotting. He's been globetrotting. Listen, we're going to come back to this in just a moment, but first, a spokesperson for the Energy Department defended ministers using domestic flights, saying ministers and civil servants are required to travel for government business, and whilst most journeys are are by train, flights are sometimes necessary to ensure ministerial and officials' time is used as efficiently as possible. Yeah. All right, well, listen, if you're in search of some winter sun and you fancy flying off somewhere, take no notice of what they're saying. Here's the forecast of some of the top European holiday destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Although some of the sunniest and warmest weather across Europe is in the UK at the moment, there'll still be some fine weather for parts of Spain. However, an area of rain is moving into Portugal, Madeira, just about avoiding Canaries for Sunday. Further east into central, eastern and southern Spain, as well as Gibraltar, sunny spells. Showers for Italy and for Greece, not as lively as the thunderstorms we saw last week. Then it turns a bit colder for Italy and Greece later next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure dominates, lots of sunshine across the country, though there is some low cloud across the far northeast and a bit of a breeze as well, making it feel a bit cooler here. You can see high pressure sat to the north of the UK, so an easterly breeze, drawing in some cooler air from the North Sea. But the further south and west you are, it will be warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. Through into the evening time, we can see some low cloud drifting back inland across parts of northern England into eastern Scotland, but elsewhere overnight it stays dry and clear, and with some lighter winds we'll see a few mist and fog patches forming. Temperatures falling to low single figures across northern parts in particular, patchy frost possible in the countryside as well. But that does mean a lovely start to Sunday for most of us. So zooming in across Scotland, we do have some low cloud first thing though across the north and the east. This will slowly start to burn away and allow coastal stretches to become sunnier, but elsewhere dry and sunny to start Sunday morning. Northern Ireland and northern England, a few mist and fog patches first thing, but this soon clearing. Low cloud perhaps over Wales, this soon clearing as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of the country. A bit chilly though, but temperatures soon rising as the sun does too, and through the day most places having plenty of blue skies. Lots of sunshine to come, moderate UV levels across the country though. The sunshine turning hazy at times across northern England into Scotland. Low clouds still affecting Orkney and Shetland here, and temperatures a little chilly across eastern coastal, 10, 11, 12 Celsius, but further south and west reaching 18, 19 Celsius in that sunshine, so well above where they should be for the time of year, which should be around about 12 or 13 degrees. Temperatures start dropping away again Sunday evening and overnight, allowing a patchy frost in places, but high pressure holding on through much of next week. It stays dry and sunny and temperatures still above average. See you soon.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Now, there's always something going on in the royal household, and this week has been no different. And every Saturday, I love to give you a rundown, and who'd better to do so than the royal biographer, Angela Levin herself. Angela, right, good to see you. What's on the menu? What have we got?
Well, I think I'll start with the king, because he's the most important one. And this is that Andrew, his son, who's always a bit of a mischief marker, discussed his future and plans for a Chinese investment that he thought would make him have a lot of money. And they were very worried about this because the person who came along to help him was a man called Yang Tengbo, and they thought that he was a spy. So that did not go very well. And there has been various meetings, but nothing has heard of them. But he won't get any money from it. So since the interview with Emily Maitlis,
oh God, that was
3 years ago, he's no longer can work for the royals, you see. So he'd got no money. So this was to help him. And it hasn't worked. But he does still send Christmas and birthday cards to the Chinese president.
I can't even bear to even talk more about him because he's just making such a mess of everything. Let's talk about Harry.
Well, let me just finish about Charles, because it's his 20th wedding anniversary on Wednesday, and he and Camilla are going to Italy and going to have a state banquet.
Oh, that's lovely.
Much done by the Prime Minister. And there's going to be 150 people there, and you wonder, is that what you want on your birthday? But, of course, King Charles likes to be with as many people as he possibly can talk to.
Yeah, no, I like
So that's that. And then he'll spend 4 days there. Can't see the Pope, it's not well enough. That was the original there. But I think that's really nice that they have that wonderful feeling of 20 years where nobody thought they would actually get engaged because people would hate it.
Oh, well, I'm so glad that that's not the case, and it's lovely to see him happy. Let's talk about Harry.
Harry. OK, well, I mean, it's quite interesting because it's what you did to others, others are doing to you now. Frankly, I mean, he's tried to protect Meghan, and if anybody said anything nasty, he would be absolutely vile about them. But he's been very nasty about Sophie Chanduka, who is the one who's CEO of the charity now. And he's been appalling, and he has been talking to her as if she was somebody who wasn't worth sitting down next to. And he did say, the problem goes back to Meghan again, I'm afraid. The photograph, you might remember that, when she wouldn't let Sophie come in next to Harry, and so she had to dive under the award.
I remember that.
Very rude. And she was very upset about this. And Harry then could hear lots of people complaining about Meghan. So he said to her, come on now, what are you going to do about this? And she said, I'm not doing anything. I'm not a PR of yours. I'm not. So he then sent her a disgusting letter, which was...
Do they have those letters?
Well, they say they have the letters. All that's gone to an organisation called Charity Commission.
The Charity Commission.
Yes, to see how the people do it. But being very rude, she said that he was extremely rude to her and racist. So we've now got an extraordinary argument going on about who's going to win this one. And he stood down 2 weeks ago from being with the charity, with other trust charities,
as well, didn't they? So
and saying that... but he didn't tell her, he didn't suggest it to her, so it was very rude anyway. And they're blaming her, but she's blaming him. So we'll have to see what's going on there.
Have to wait and find out what happens with that. And Meghan's jams.
And Meghan's jam. She's still in a jam, actually. It's quite difficult for her to do anything else. And I think what is here, we've got the African Riviera Orchard, which didn't work. She's got Confessions of Female Founder, which is going out next week. And it's actually learning how to be a better person and how women have done so well. But the first one, she talked so much about herself that they've had to place questions and answers from the other person. It'll be a disaster because she's not somebody... You and I have had years of sort of talking to people and being quite yourself, but Meghan thinks everyone wants to hear her, and so it should be a joke.
Well, it could be that she's not very good at that sort of thing.
No, she's no good.
She might be an actress, but really when it comes to podcasting and things like that, we've got the jam on the screen now. Maybe she'll go into pickle next. She's in a bit of one at the moment.
Well, the jam is interesting, actually. It's £10.80. The sparklers, if anybody wants them, I don't think many do, putting it on everything, is £11.60. But in Highgrove, you can get a really good jam for under £6. So I don't think many people are going for this one.
But it's sold out, though, no? Probably sold out.
Well, a lot of people say they don't even believe it's sold out, that they actually had 10 people to buy. And actually, it's done in a big factory. We thought it would be done actually in her garden, but it's in a big factory, and anyone working on it has to sign that they're not going to mention which factory, that they're not going to mention how it was done or what was in it. End of story.
My God, Meghan Markle. Well, obviously she would say that she's just trying to get on and make money and not sponge off the general public and use her title as a way of making money. That's why she's gone into jams. Thank you very much, Angela Levin. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Right, well, stay with me 54 minutes after 3 o'clock. Next up, my niggle, as I take on Westminster Council, or should I say Wokeminster Council, as they're instructing staff to take a white privilege test. Let's see what my results are, but first, let's get some weather.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure dominates, lots of sunshine across the country, though there is some low cloud across the far northeast and a bit of a breeze as well, making it feel a bit cooler here. You can see high pressure sat to the north of the UK, so an easterly breeze, drawing in some cooler air from the North Sea. But the further south and west you are, it will be warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. Through into the evening time, we can see some low cloud drifting back inland across parts of northern England into eastern Scotland, but elsewhere overnight it stays dry and clear, and with some lighter winds we'll see a few mist and fog patches forming, temperatures falling to low single figures across northern parts in particular, patchy frost possible in the countryside as well. But that does mean a lovely start to Sunday for most of us. So zooming in across Scotland, we do have some low cloud first thing though across the north and the east. This will slowly start to burn away and allow coastal stretches to become sunnier, but elsewhere dry and sunny to start Sunday morning. Northern Ireland and northern England, a few mist and fog patches first thing, but this soon clearing. Low cloud perhaps over Wales, this soon clearing as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of the country. A bit chilly though, but temperatures soon rising as the sun does too, and through the day most places having plenty of blue skies. Lots of sunshine to come, moderate UV levels across the country, though the sunshine turning hazy at times across northern England into Scotland. Low cloud still affecting Orkney and Shetland here, and temperatures a little chilly across eastern coastal, 10, 11, 12 Celsius, but further south and west reaching 18, 19 Celsius in that sunshine, so well above where they should be for the time of year, which should be around about 12 or 13 degrees. Temperatures start dropping away again Sunday evening and overnight, allowing a patchy frost in places, but high pressure holding on through much of next week. It stays dry and sunny and temperatures still above average. See you soon.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Tomorrow on GB News Breakfast, we've got a treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon. Tomorrow from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new royal newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also CEO of Youth Vote UK, Alex Cairns. Coming up in my niggle, I'll be taking on Westminster Council, or should we say Wokeminster Council, as staff have been told to undergo a white privilege test. It's the word on everyone's lips this morning as US President Donald Trump's economic policy takes effect.
Tariffs, 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 tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it?
UK-based car maker Jaguar Land Rover is the first to pause shipments of its cars to America, worth £6.5 billion. But can our Prime Minister strike a deal? Then for the Great British Debate, I'll be asking, should we be worried about Donald Trump's tariffs? That poll is live. Head over to gbnews.com and cast your vote. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage is staying positive.
This could be a wake-up call that if we get it right, could really benefit us. We should start lowering tariffs for food, for products from around the world. Let's become a truly competitive economy.
Yes, that's Nigel Farage earlier. And then, coming up, difficult conversations. I'll be joined by the former Tory Minister, Mark Field. Yes, he's the one that wrote that fabulous book, The End of an Era. He claims that his affair with Liz Truss ruined his marriage. He said he found the former Prime Minister intoxicating, disconcerting and exhausting, not to mention at times utterly infuriating. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thanks, Nana. Good afternoon to you. A minute past 4, our headlines. Jaguar Land Rover is pausing shipments of its British-made cars to America as the fallout from President Trump's tariffs reverberates around the global economy. The company says it needs time to consider the new trading terms of the 25% levy. Well, exports to the United States account for almost a quarter of JLR's 400,000 annual sales of its Range Rover Sport, Defender and other models. The company, which is owned by India's Tata Motors, says the temporary pause will last for a month while it develops plans for the future. JLR employs 38,000 people in Britain. Well, the decision comes after Thursday's 25% levy on all cars imported into the US, with the baseline 10% tariff coming into effect today. Donald Trump announced the measures on his so-called Liberation Day. He says the days of US being ripped off are over. Now, yesterday, Wall Street closed after one of its more volatile weeks in years. The investment firm JP Morgan's warned that the odds of a global recession have jumped from 40% to 60%. America and China, meanwhile, declared a trade war yesterday. The Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, is expected to spend this weekend in touch with other global leaders as they try to navigate what he's described as a new era in trade. And another world leader will visit Washington to try and figure out what to do about these tariffs. The White House has confirmed Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will meet Donald Trump. 17% tariffs on Israeli imports will come into effect on the 9th of April. From tomorrow, new parents with a child in neonatal care will be entitled to an additional 12 weeks of leave and pay. That's on top of parental leave if they're eligible. It will apply to parents of babies who are admitted into neonatal care up to 28 days old and who have a continuous stay in care for 7 full days or longer. And the government says it's to try and relieve some pressure on working families. Charities say they're delighted with the decision after years of campaigning. I'm just going to bring you some live pictures from central London, where there is a protest taking place. It's called Hands Off. They're standing up for what they say is democracy. Now, this is all because Donald Trump, they believe, threatened to invade Greenland, Canada and Panama, and they are calling for a stop to the chaos. They're trying to build opposition against the global rise of fascism. It's not the only one. There's a protest in central Paris as well, and they'll be kicking off in the United States too. We will bring you pictures of those as we go through the afternoon here on GB News. A US government department has said it's disappointed by the conviction of a UK campaigner who protested outside an abortion clinic. Olivia Tosici-Bolt was sentenced to a 2-year conditional discharge after breaking a public spaces protection order on 2 occasions. She held a sign saying, "Here to talk if you want," near the clinic in March last year. Well, GB News spoke to the lawyer who represented Ms. Tosici-Bolt a little earlier.
But what I find really disappointing is that it's taken the US State Department to comment on the censorship crisis in this country. We had Number 10 referring to Livia's case as something that may well portray harassment. So equating peaceful behaviour as harassment is a despicable lack of leadership.
Grand National is just underway, so everyone at Aintree very excited. The shouting in the stands, where thousands of people will be, will get louder as the horses come round for the second lap at the famous course. 34 horses taking place in the event. I Am Maximus, well fancied. That was last year's winner, and strong with the bookies. I Am Maximus, ridden by jockey Paul Townsend, hoping for a repeat of its success. And punters, even though it doesn't look like it in those pictures, have been enjoying the sunshine at Aintree on the hottest day of the year so far. The race winner, the winning trainer, I should say, will take home in excess of £500,000. And speaking of good weather, warm and dry conditions expected to continue across the country for the whole of next week. Above average temperatures then for this and next weekend, with the risk of wildfire still possible, but reducing. They've been a danger this week so far, but let's hope not so much next week. 21 degrees you can expect in parts of the southeast. The Met Office saying the sunshine getting stronger every day. That is exactly what we want to hear. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more at 4:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, 7 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. I've just found out I've got white privilege. It's such a burden. I did the test from Westminster or Wokeminster Council, and I think what swung it was I shop at M&S and Waitrose, and I'm not sure that it expects minority groups to shop there. And it asked me whether I saw members of my race, ethnic group, gender or sexual orientation negatively portrayed on TV. And obviously, as I have my own show on TV and there are so many mixed-race people in the adverts, I said no. I think I must have selected the wrong thing for that one as well. To be honest, I'm struggling to cope with my privilege. It's burdensome. Of all the ridiculous things, this takes the biscuit. A Labour council is telling staff to undergo a privilege test as part of its efforts to combat unconscious bias against ethnic minorities. Now, the quiz is the brainchild of Stuart Love, who has been the Westminster Council's chief executive since 2018. And last year, he told Management Today, which is a magazine, we should all be woke, but in the local government where we are delivering services to communities. Stewart set up the quiz to ensure that ethnic minorities were shortlisted for jobs, and if they weren't, they needed to contact him. The quiz uses stereotypes to determine the level of privilege in an attempt to root out unconscious bias, although I suspect the unconscious bias is actually his own. So it doesn't directly ask what colour I am. That would be too obvious, unless, of course, I'm a white male, which it had no qualms about asking. Instead, it put forward leading questions to work it out, like, do I use an afro comb, which immediately reduces my privilege? Saying yes to being a white male was the kiss of death and adds an extra 15 or so points and bumps you up the scale. Isn't that a racist quiz? Neil O'Brien, a Tory MP and former minister, said the document showed that the council was running racist hiring policies on an industrial scale. It shows how far the public sector has drifted from the idea of meritocracy. Well, Westminster City Council said Westminster City Council's recruitment policies are industry standard, entirely consistent with UK employment law, and have been in place for a number of years. This PowerPoint presentation, which we believe was available on the Council staff intranet from 2021, does not form any part of our formal policy training or recruitment process. Look, if you think that based on the colour of my skin I probably won't shop in Waitrose or M&S, or that as a black person I'm unlikely to have had someone read to me as a child, which is one of the questions, and you're asking me if I've got an afro comb, aren't you putting forward racial stereotypes which are effectively racist? How can you judge my social status by the colour of my skin? And if that is your barometer, then you're the racist. And this quiz, in my view, is a projection of that. Well, before we get stuck into the debates, here's what else is coming up today. For the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, is there such thing as white privilege? Is the biggest race horse coming up as well? Not race, but the biggest horse race. And thousands are enjoying the sunshine at the Aintree Racecourse as the Grand National begins. We'll be crossing live to that as well. The big race kicks off. And a farm in Clacton that caters for visitors with disabilities and mental health challenges is in desperate need of funds. Owners say they have only a month left, but they've got the support of Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. We'll be hearing from him soon. All of that on the way. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. Well, I'm joined now by political commentator Shahab Mossavat. Shahab, I've got... How do I say that?
It's very aerated.
Shaharabat.
I don't mind. As many ha-has as you want.
Tell me how you want.
Shahab.
Shahab. What? I put another ha-ha in there. Sorry about that.
That's okay, no problem. I got your surname wrong last time.
That's true, so I'm just really getting back at you, actually.
Not a problem at all.
Right, now what do you make of this? This is what I'm saying in my niggle. This is, to me, ultimately, in my view, it's actually a racist quiz, because you are putting stereotypical things in place to make an assumption that somebody is a certain way based on the colour of their skin. You're not asking me how much money I have, or what my income is, or you know, how much I spend on this or how much I spend on that. You're saying, based on the fact that I use an afro comb, the fact that I've been stop and searched, the fact that I'm this and that, the fact that I don't shop at M&S and Waitrose, that I must not have privilege.
Well, I think it's giving it too much credit to call it racist. I think it's if anything, it's inverse racism. But more than that, it's clumsy, it's foolish, it's a waste of an effort. It's a waste of an opportunity, really, to create society and bring society closer to each other. But my thought is that the test is highly relevant because it's an actual reflection that demonstrates the commitment with which the culture wars are being fought by the woke. The woke are desperate to re-engineer society in their own image so that they can create the sort of dictatorial orthodoxy within which they can predict our spending behaviours and they can market to us. It's really about the globalist woke agenda. You become a captive, and as a captive, you are predictable. As a predictable entity, you can be marketed to much more readily. Now,
I thought that the Stuart Love, the story was that in his childhood, he was in South Africa and he faced, he saw under apartheid, he felt guilty because he's a white person. So he then decided to come up with this. But in my view, this is actually almost a projection because you're fixing a problem by creating the same problem. And that's not really And it's born out of guilt, his own guilt. And that's not really... It's no use to me. Him having so-called white guilt or whatever he thinks it is no use to me, because it then places me in a bracket in his brain.
It's no use to you, but it's of great utility to him and to them.
To him it is, because it can categorise you, compartmentalise you, and continue with the racism.
And that is why I don't think we should just dismiss it glibly. I think we should take it very seriously. This is a serious attempt at social re-engineering, and it's been going on for a long time. It starts really in this country with Tony Blair. Tony Blair is the first managerialist leader of this country. He comes in with an agenda to regiment us, to put us into a predictable model, the SAP model, if you like, of society. And that is what needs to be confronted. And that is what is being confronted. Because, you see, globalism requires that, but nationalism dismisses that. Nationalism says, no, actually, I value your identity and identities. You can live together, but there is actually an overarching identity to which we all subscribe, and it gives us national pride and it makes us patriots.
But it's not based on the colour of your skin,
Absolutely
national identity.
not.
And this is the problem. This is based on what colour you are, and the whole privilege. They've not put the word white privilege on there, but they've called it privilege. And we know it's about white privilege, because if you do click that you're a white male, then unfortunately you go straight up, it racks up an extra 15 points.
Yeah, but isn't it ironic? Isn't it ironic?
But he won't ask you if you're black.
No, it won't. But isn't it ironic that the very mechanisms that are being used are the mechanisms developed by the privileged white in order to predict how everybody else should be?
That's right.
OK? Now, Paul Embry, writer of a brilliant book called Despised, Why the Modern Left Loathes the Working Class, talks about exactly those sorts of paradigms. So what's happened is those people that describe themselves as the modern left really actually hate their own roots. They're self-hating. They want to get away from that. And the way they do that is to try and encapsulate, to try and embrace everybody into this predictable model which they themselves have described, which is anything but working class. They're really ashamed of it. They really want it to be the word working class, the idea that people should be given priority because they work, doesn't resonate. It's whether you're a minority, whether you're put upon, whether we can do good to you, not with you, for you, together, to you.
Yeah, it's a superiority complex, I think, within his mind, obviously, because he came from South Africa where there was apartheid, so he probably feels he wanted to correct the wrongs. But what he doesn't understand is he's not in South Africa. No. His mindset, that might be his logical thinking of how you work out whether someone is privileged, but that's not mine. Mine isn't that. It's actually, how much money have you got? Right. You know, how good are you at the thing that you can do? Do you have money to buy whatever you need when you need? Not, do you have an afro comb? Do you shop at M&S and all that? And that's just stereotypical nonsense.
But I come back to this. In order to achieve meritocracy, in order to achieve something that is actually based on the facts of the individual, what you have to do is to confront this. You have to accept, but you have to accept that it is important. This exercise actually helps. It is a catalyst towards its rejection. If it was done more surreptitiously, then what we would have is a greater struggle towards confronting it. I am of the left. I've said this to you repeatedly, and you always sort of looked at me with a degree of scepticism. So how can you be? No. They're not incongruous. The idea of nation and pride in the nation and left is as old as Tony Benn. It's as old as Oscar Lafontaine, Glenn Greenwald. All of these people advocate exactly that position. The problem is, it seems incongruous, so we don't often get to voice our opinion. You know, we're in the vanguard of a new politics, the politics of globalism versus nationalism.
Well, listen, Shahab, thank you very much. Shahab Mothavat discussing my niggle on white privilege. What do you think? gbnews.com/you'll say 17 minutes after 4 o'clock. Some breaking news now. So Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron have discussed their concerns about the global economic and security impact in the wake of Donald Trump's tariffs. Number 10 has said that they agreed that a trade war was in nobody's interest, but nothing should be off the table, and that it was important to keep business updated on developments. And, of course, in the horse racing, Nick Rocket, trained by Willie Mullins and ridden by his son Patrick Mullins, have just won the Randox Grand National at Aintree. There you go. Great to have your company. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Next, the Great British Debate. I'm asking, is there such a thing as white privilege?
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
I spoke with one of the most inspirational ladies I've ever spoken to today. Her story will stop you in her tracks. Ladies and gents, this is Tina Nash.
Basically, I met Shane Jenkin back in 2009. Basically, he was very, very sweet to me for the first, I'd say 4 or 5 months. And I really fell for him. I've never really been in love properly until I met him. I was laying across the bed with my legs hanging off the bed and I was wrapped up in my duvet. And next thing you know, I had hands through the duvet, start strangling me.
What had he done to you?
He'd come in, he'd beaten me unconscious. My head was twice the size of what it should have been, broken nose, broken jaw. And basically when I was unconscious, he gouged my eyes out with his bare thumbs. I didn't know that I was blind until basically on that 3rd time that I come back round after he'd knocked me unconscious. When I come back round, I knew that he was trying to kill me then. That is when I knew what he was doing.
Have your eyes recovered? Can you see anything anymore or not?
I haven't got any eyes. These are glass eyes. They're not even real. They're glass.
He was sent to prison, wasn't he? He got a life sentence.
Yeah. With a minimum, of 6 years minimum term.
And that was in 2012.
It was, and the judge said that he had to prove himself fit on a landing for 6 years with no medical intervention before he is even accepted to be allowed out on the streets. This has not happened.
Goodness me. And am I right now in thinking, Tina, that he's essentially in what most people would know to be an open prison?
Yeah, he's in Cat D.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop star to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
"21 after 4 o'clock. If you just tuned in, where have you been? Oh, what, enjoying the outside sun? Oh, OK, fair enough. All right, we'll get you. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's time for the Great British Debate this hour. I'm asking, is there such a thing as white privilege? Labour's Wokeminster City Council, I'll be calling them that from now, is seeking to boost non-white employees, and to do this they're making every hiring manager go on an unconscious bias in inclusive recruitment training course. Is there such thing as a white privilege? Oh, come on, literally. I mean, if you're saying that, isn't that a level of racism? But let's ask my panel. Joining me, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also CEO of Youth Vote UK, Alex Cairns. All right, shall we start with Alex, as you'll probably say there is. Alex, is there such thing as white privilege?
How did you know I would?
Exactly. Let's have a listen to what he has to say.
No, I mean, in all seriousness, I think it's an interesting one because I definitely think there is, right? And I think the stats will never lie, you know. I was looking before I got here, 90% of FTSE 100 senior leadership are white men, right?
What, is that in the UK?
That's in the UK, yeah.
OK, so can I just talk about the percentage of white men in the UK as opposed to black men and ethnic minorities?
But
I mean, that sort of mirrors the percentage of black and ethnic minorities within this country.
I think it's slightly higher.
Well, a tiny bit. I think it's 16 or 15, but it's not.
But actually, that stat is very damning because what it shows us is there probably are very, very capable people from all different races that are not being given the opportunity because of unconscious bias. And we know it happens, right? I've been in interviews where, I wouldn't want to admit this, but it's true. You are biased towards people that look and sound like you. So you have to do something about that. So it's very prevalent and we can't argue it's not. not, you know?
Well, that's probably a survival instinct, you know, so taken back from when you know, because often I see babies and they look at me and they go, ah! Because I don't look, because I'm a different colour. But that's only because I'm different to what they're normally seeing. Then, you know what I mean? So maybe it's more a survival instinct. Somebody who looks more like someone who cared for you like your mother, you're more likely to lean towards them in terms of survival. But is that something you think you can actually get rid of and cure from people?
Well, you're never going to get rid of it completely, because I hear what you're saying. Like, I do think that when you grow up, if you grow up in a certain area, you're probably used to seeing and talking to certain people. So when you don't come across them, it becomes a shock. But I think in all parts of the economy, whether we're looking at the cabinet, whether we're looking at top judges, whether we look at the FTSE 100, senior leaders, vice chancellors of universities, all across the country, the majority of people in senior leadership roles or positions of power are white men, right? And that's an issue. And that's where we know that if you grow up as a young black or Asian kid, you are statistically going to make less than your white counterpart.
That's just not true.
No, but it is true. There's lots of stats to back that up, Nana.
Maybe in parts you may see that, but...
You don't think that's true?
There's a term called the so-called global majority. That's what they say. I don't like the term, but basically, most people on this earth are actually of colour. So it's only in countries where there's a lot of people who are Caucasian where it appears that there is some sort of majority. But I think it's 85% of the planet are of mixed or black race. So they're not... Most people are... So that kind of discounts your theory immediately.
But in the UK, though?
Listen, Labour's Westminster City Council should hold their heads in shame. It's wokeism at its worst, Nana. I'm actually quite appalled.
It's ridiculous.
I'm quite appalled at this, putting people in a certain category because of the colour of their skin. This in itself is racist. And it's not only foolish, clumsy, it's actually a huge waste of an opportunity of doing something good instead of what they're doing is a serious attempt to divide and conquer. That's what this is about. And I'm sick to death of it, actually. And I really worry that this is going on. This country seems to be continuously vilifying white people. I mean, and I just want to bring up the Adolescence, which Netflix, which had great acting, and I did watch it.
I don't know why.
But it's not of real, true life, and it's demeaning to white young boys, and they're putting it out in schools, and it's not actually true.
That's ridiculous, because what happened there is very, very, very rare. So for them to say that we should put that out in schools as though this is something that could happen, maybe, I think it's such a rare occurrence that something to that extreme would happen. I think people really need to sit back and have a think about why you want to put that in there. But look, the way I see it is this. The quiz reinforces the stereotypes. So the quiz doesn't actually do anything to help your mind. All it does is you will go through it and go, oh, so a lot of people of ethnic minorities don't really shop at Marks and Spencer's or Waitrose. Oh, so a lot of ethnic minorities, people have ethnic claims. Oh, so a lot of ethnic minority people don't see black people or whatever being portrayed well in TV. Oh, so that is a projection of somebody else's unconscious bias onto everybody else. I never thought of all that. They're indoctrinating me with their unconscious bias. Isn't it about time people just stop talking about colour and focus on actually how good someone is?
But the problem is you can't get to a point where people are hard on merit when unconscious bias exists in the recruitment process. That's why you need to look at it, right? If you don't have quotas, right, literally nothing will change. We'll have the same people that are hired into the same roles because unconscious bias exists. You can't remove unconscious bias, as you said. From when you're young, it's there. You're going to be, you know, consciously or unconsciously biased towards people that look and sound like you.
Who gave you the unconscious bias to begin with?
Well, I mean...
It would have been... See, that's the thing. See, that's the thing. It's things like this that indoctrinate a state of mind and a belief structure. So then you carry that on with you. If I haven't told my son Ivory that he's black. My parents are mixed race. My parents never told me. I didn't really know what the difference was about being black or white. I just got on with my thing until somebody somewhere told me, oh, you're black, the slave trade, this and that happened, blah, 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 blah. And suddenly my projection of who I am and how... I was like, oh, I never realised that you guys... And actually, the story wasn't even told properly. And the reality is, at some point, everyone has been enslaved at some point by someone somewhere.
How are you going to have role models, right? And how, you know, a young Asian, you know, child from Birmingham going to grow up and see people like him in senior leadership positions or running universities or being the Prime Minister if you don't have a system that is changed?
Well,
unconscious bias means that he's never going to see that unless you change it.
Yes, but no, it doesn't. I think unconscious bias means that it's a set of stereotypical rules that people keep re-indoctrinating and then it becomes a conscious thing. He's turned this into a conscious re-indoctrination of bias. Look, so look, in this unconscious bias world, I'm supposedly going to be struggling in life because I've got a darker skin, because that's how it goes. All right, let's start with, what kind of school did you go to?
A normal state school.
All right, so I went to a convent boarding school run by nuns.
OK.
How did you get to school? Did you take a train or walk?
Yeah, train
OK,
bus, yeah.
so every term, my parents, we flew from New York, because my parents lived in America. So I flew from JF Kennedy Airport to London, where I then went to a very exclusive, expensive boarding school. OK, what was your first job? Is this it? What was your first job?
Working in a pub.
Right, mine was Kiss 100, then it was Capital Radio, then it was the BBC, then it was Sky, and then it was ITV. I worked with them on and off, and then now it's here, my own show.
You've done very well, yeah.
Hold on. Who's got the privilege?
But
no, hold on. Who's got the privilege? If there's some sort of white privilege, how come I'm here?
No, we're not seriously.
It should be how good you are at your job. This is what it should be on merit, not on of where you're from, the colour of your skin. That is the whole point of this, and it's just not fair. And you have got no explanation, Alex.
Well, wait, hold on. So what we're saying is, because you did well in your career, right? Yeah. And you're a percentage of the population that have done well from that ethnic background, right? You're essentially saying that everyone else can just get to where they need to get to. It's just not true, and the stats don't prove it up, by the way.
Well, whatever stats you're looking at, I think it is true. My dad told me there's no such word as can't, it's won't. And he said that the glass ceiling, sometimes you see it break it, it's made of glass. He came here in the 60s, he had nothing, and he set up his stall, he did his exams and everything else, he became head of credit risk at NatWest Markets. Black man, he did it himself, he worked really hard, he had, obviously, there was no equality, equity and all that kind of thing, and when I grew up that wasn't really there either. So I saw someone achieving without going on about the colour of their skin, and I suddenly thought, well, there's nothing that I can't do that you can do. If I want to be successful, I can be.
I would love people to get to where they need to get to on merit, but we know that doesn't happen. So in the interim, you have to have quotas. Like this. No, I don't agree.
Because of things like
this. It should be on merit, though, and it's in all walks of life. Even in the football world, they're always saying there aren't enough, different nationalities as the manager. I'm like, it's on merit, it's on results, it's how you're good at your job.
That's how we need to refocus, because now we're focusing on, we need a black person, we need a disabled person, we need a trans person, we're now literally putting people in categories and selecting them based on these things, which then it ruins the notion of a meritocracy. Why can't people start focusing on these things and start focusing on how good people are? And if we actually did that, then all of this, what colour someone would be, it would be out of the window. If we just literally focus on how good someone is and how good they are for the job, then this would not be necessary.
I don't agree. I literally don't agree. I'm sorry, it's fundamentally not going to change anything if we don't have quotas, because you need people. They're not going to get it on merit, because someone's going to sit in the interview and say, you know what, even though they're good, I don't vibe with them, so I'm not going to give them the role.
Alex, it should be asking the question, how good are you at your job? Not have you got an afro comb?
They're not. In the interview processes, it doesn't happen. So you need a conscious bias.
No, you don't, because this is re-indoctrinating. Listen, I didn't think that somebody who's black might not shop at Waitrose or Marks and Spencer's. I never even thought about that. But this is now telling me, as I read it, people of colour probably don't shop at those shops. So this is what this is putting in things into my psyche subliminally that didn't exist in the first place. And I'm saying these sort of things are actually quite negative, and I'm glad that this person has made such a hash of it, so we can all have a look at it and go, how ridiculous is that?
And it is itself racist.
It's not racist or ridiculous. What they're trying to do is they're trying to help people from ethnic backgrounds get on in that council.
Yeah, but they're trying to do it badly. If they just simply work out whether someone's good at the job, then they'll do a lot better on it. But let's go to Alan Cook. He's a great British voice. He's here as an opportunity to tell us what he thinks about the topics we're discussing. Alan Cook, is there such thing as white privilege?
Hiya, Nana. Well, no, of course not. We're talking about, what is it, the Labour-run Westminster Council, their hiring staff have to go through the white privilege test. But don't forget, the woke flourished under the Tory government. So, it's not just a Labour thing. I took the test, as I know you did as well. I know you're white privileged. And but I'm so white privileged, I actually fell off the end of the scale. But
you clicked white male, didn't you?
I landed on gilded cushions. I was fine. I wasn't hurt. But isn't it odd that the privileged side just happens to be on the right? and the underprivileged side is actually on the left of the scale. I don't know if
Very
that's
good. I never noticed that.
I don't know. But, you know, it's as if we are the invaders of the UK. We have oppressed the indigenous population here. And, you know, it's like, no, we are the indigenous population, and we're being penalised for being that. So, these policies they're anti-integration, they're divisive, racist. They're the opposite of what a government body, councils, should be doing. You know, it's as if everything should be based on skin colour, and it's not. You know, quality of opportunity to everyone without penalising people based on skin colour. And that's pretty much something down the line of which Martin Luther King said.
Exactly.
You know, we're moving away from all the good work that's been done in the past. We're destroying it, and it's wrong. You know, the British they're kind, tolerant nation. They're liberal in the true sense of the word, and we always have been. We're a considerate, decent nation. These people who are now forcing this upon us are tyrannical, aggressive bullies. They're dangerous people who are not, as far as I'm concerned, fit for public office.
Yeah.
And I think it was David Starkey said, wokery is a tyranny of the minorities. And he's right.
You think, we've got to go, Alan Cook. I could talk to you on this for a long time. I really appreciate your contribution. Thank you very much. That's Alan Cook. He's a great British voice. Very good. And obviously, the people who put this together, I'm sure they didn't mean to try and make it come across as racist. I mean, their aim was to create further integration. Meanwhile, in Washington, D.C., protesters are gathering to oppose Donald Trump's apparent authoritarian overreach and billionaire-backed agenda. Around 500,000 people are expected to gather in total across the United States. Lots of protests happening over the Trump tariffs. But you're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. We'll be crossing live to the horse race in Aintree next as Nick Rocket wins the Grand National. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you, Nana. Very good afternoon to you. Our headlines: Jaguar Land Rover is pausing shipments of its British-made cars to America as the fallout from President Trump's tariffs continue. The company said it needs time to consider how to mitigate the cost of the 25% import levy that's been imposed by the US president. Exports to the US account for almost a quarter of Jaguar Land Rover's 400,000 annual sales. Now, the company, owned by India's Tata Motors, says the temporary pause will last for a month while it develops plans for the future. It employs 38,000 people in Britain. And you heard about those protests that are taking place around the world already. We have seen demonstrations in London and Paris. This was called Hands Off, this in the centre of London, as they stand up for democracy following Donald Trump's threats to invade Greenland, Canada and indeed Panama. And these are some live pictures from Washington, D.C., where people are protesting much for the same reasons. It's all about democracy. They're against Donald Trump's administration and indeed his advisor, the Tesla CEO Elon Musk. Anti-Musk protests happened all throughout last week, and these will take place across the United States. As you may have heard, up to 500,000 people expected to attend. We'll bring you pictures as we go through the day. A teenager's died after getting into difficulty at a lake in southeast London. Officers and paramedics were called to Beckenham Place Park in Lewisham. It was shortly after 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Police say the search for a missing 15-year-old boy was then stopped after a boy was found on Friday night. Specialist diving teams, ambulance crews and firefighters were all assisting in the search. A woman at the centre of a free speech controversy involving the US government has been convicted of breaching a buffer zone at an abortion clinic. Olivia Tosici-Bolt was sentenced to a 2-year conditional discharge after breaking a public spaces protection order on 2 occasions. Now, the 64-year-old held a sign that said, "Here to talk if you want," near the clinic in Bournemouth last year. Nick Rocket, trained by Willie Mullins and ridden by his son Patrick, has won the Grand National at Aintree. The 33-1 shot led home a 1-2-3 past the post for champion trainer Mullins. So some day for him. First 3 races. He also got the 5th place runner, and he won it last year with I Am Maximus. So great day for Mullins, and indeed for the winning owner. They take home in excess of £500,000. Those are the latest headlines. More from me just after 5 o'clock.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
I and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tomorrow on GB News Breakfast, we've got a treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon. Tomorrow from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Welcome back. You're with me, Nana Akua, on GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's fast approaching 42 minutes after 4 o'clock. Now, Willie Mullins' horse, Nick Rocket, has just won the Grand National. His son, Patrick, was the winning jockey as he held off favourite and defending champion I Am Maximus. I think Lizzie had some money on that one and she lost. To take the spoils at Aintree. Well, let's go straight there and speak to North West reporter Sophie Reaper. Sophie. Good to see you. Sophie, what's the atmosphere been like on there?
Oh, Nana, it's been absolutely incredible all day today. We were expecting it, but it's always still very overwhelming when you're inside Aintree, when there's 60,000 voices all cheering on the horse that they want to win. And I have to say, Nick Rocket, we've been here all day. We've been speaking to experts, speaking to former jockeys, speaking to members of the public about who they were going to be betting on today, who they might have a flutter on. And not one single person said to me, Nick Rocket. So the odds were around 33 to 1 ahead of time. So a complete outsider. So if people did have a bet on that, we didn't get a chance to speak to them, but I'm sure they'll be very, very happy right now. Another person who will be very, very happy is Willie Mullins, trainer of not just one, not just two, but the top 3 horses in today's Grand National. Of course, I Am Maximus, who took the crown last year, he came in 2nd place today, and then Grange Clare West coming in 3rd, all of whom being trained by Willie Mullins. So an excellent day for him today, and an excellent day for his son, Pat Mullins, who was riding the winning horse, Nick Rocket. So a fabulous day for their family. But I think for anyone here at Aintree today, the atmosphere has been electric. The sun has been shining. There's not been a cloud in the sky. It's been another fabulous annual Aintree and another fabulous 177th annual Grand National.
Oh, wonderful. I bet you're having a lovely day on a nice hot day, you lucky lady. Sophie Reaper, thank you very much. Really good to speak to you. That's Sophie Reaper. She's there live in Aintree at the Grand National. Loving the outfit as well. She was in the paper the other day as well, wasn't she?
She was in the paper. Yeah, one of the most wonderfully dressed. Yes, a fine filly.
They called her. Listen, we've had a few messages in, by the way, on some of the topics we've been discussing. Robert McMillan, he on white privilege, he said, excellent, Nana. You hit the nail on the head. These people have not got a clue. You could not have put it better. He needs to see a therapist, brainwashed beyond recall. I think he's talking about Alex, who joins me, and Lizzie Cundy. Let's see. What about this one? Tyler? He says, holding a pilot's licence myself, I can tell you there is a positive bias in ethnic training. I quote the BA training guide, so he's quoting something, I'm quoting it back. BEME, so being of ethnic minority, is our network group of ethnic minority colleagues dedicated to creating a community which is inclusive of ethnic minorities and empowers them to thrive. The network pioneered British Airways' first ever all-black flight, staffed entirely by black employees, including ground agents, cabin crew, engineers and pilots, to highlight the importance of representation and role models. See, I don't agree with that. I don't agree that you should have an all-black this or an all-black that. I think that kind of then defeats the object, and actually it's the thing in reverse.
Exactly.
Not good.
We're not going to agree then, are we?
Well...
we don't agree.
No, I certainly don't agree. Right, but if you're in search of some winter sun, here's the forecast for some of the top European holiday destinations.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Although some of the sunniest and warmest weather across Europe is in the UK at the moment, there'll still be some fine weather for parts of Spain. However, an area of rain is moving into Portugal, Madeira, just about avoiding Canaries for Sunday. Further east into central, eastern and southern Spain, as well as Gibraltar, sunny spells. Showers for Italy and for Greece, not as lively as the thunderstorms we saw last week. Then it turns a bit colder for Italy and Greece later next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure dominates, lots of sunshine across the country, though there is some low cloud across the far northeast and a bit of a breeze as well, making it feel a bit cooler here. You can see high pressure sat to the north of the UK, so an easterly breeze, drawing in some cooler air from the North Sea. But the further south and west you are, it will be warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. Through into the evening time, we can see some low cloud drifting back inland across parts of northern England into eastern Scotland, but elsewhere overnight it stays dry and clear, and with some lighter winds we'll see a few mist and fog patches forming, temperatures falling to low single figures across northern parts in particular, patchy frost possible in the countryside as well. But that does mean a lovely start to Sunday for most of us. So zooming in across Scotland, we do have some low cloud first thing though across the north and the east. This will slowly start to burn away and allow coastal stretches to become sunnier, but elsewhere dry and sunny to start Sunday morning. Northern Ireland and northern England, a few mist and fog patches first thing, but this soon clearing. Low cloud perhaps over Wales, this soon clearing as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of the country. A bit chilly though, but temperatures soon rising as the sun does too. And through the day, most places having plenty of blue skies. Lots of sunshine to come, moderate UV levels across the country, though the sunshine turning hazy at times across northern England into Scotland. Low clouds still affecting Orkney and Shetland here. And temperatures a little chilly across eastern coastal, 10, 11, 12 Celsius, but further south and west reaching 18, 19 Celsius in that sunshine. So well above where they should be for the time of year, which should be around about 12 or 13 degrees. Temperatures start dropping away again Sunday evening and overnight, allowing a patchy frost in places, but high pressure holding on through much of next week. It stays dry and sunny and temperatures still above average. See you soon.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
down to earth,
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
and most importantly, honest,
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, you're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Now, a farm in St Os that caters for visitors with disabilities and mental health challenges is in desperate need of funds. So the owner says that they will have to shut within a month if they don't receive funding. Our reporter Jack Carson is there now.
Well, we've been here at Sandy's farm all day today, this fantastic community farm, and learning all about what they do for the community, and we've seen it in front of our eyes as well. Lots of kids here today having a great time, showing us all about what this community care farm is all about. But we're joined by Chairman of Tendring Council, Dan Casey. Dan, thanks so much for joining us. What does this place mean for the local community?
Well, it means everything. It's about life, isn't it? Animals, you know, these two people do an incredible job. I followed their journey before. They were somewhere else. They come here again. They struggle, they survive, but they fantastic service. Schools come here, love it. Children come here, love it. It's all about the animals here to them. That's their life.
And what does it mean for this place to be able to stay open? We've been fundraising today, try and raise that money. What does it mean for this place to stay open?
If any, the big lottery gives out lots of money, and these people, if they needed a grant, these people do. Because what they actually do, schools come here. They bring children here. Families come here with their children, so they need it. And anybody who's out there, if this goes out to there, if they've got a few bob, tell them where to put it in Tendring, because they're doing a grand job.
And it's about, say, those life skills as well. You know, it's amazing what you can learn from being around animals and learning about what it's like to work on a farm.
Well, we can learn from animals. I'm a dog lover, and if dogs know how to love, humans don't, but animals have got a different way about it. You treat animals right, they treat you right, and it's great.
Dan, thank you so much for giving us that perspective just about why this farm is so important. Well, let's speak to the people, of course, that run this, Sandy and Gary, of course. I mean, Sandy, you know, we've been here all day today, more than £10,000 raised. I mean, what's your reaction to the fundraising today?
Totally shocked. I'm really overwhelmed by how much has been raised at the moment. It's just still going up and up and up, and I can't thank people enough for what they've done. Really do appreciate
Gary,
it.
just kind of give us a perspective of where that kind of money is going to go towards, how it's going to help.
Just the ongoing costs of the rent and hay bills and improvements to all the stalls, all the animal runs and stuff like that. So I just can't thank people enough. It's amazing.
It's going to sort of really keep us ticking over and keep us going, so the door shouldn't have to shut to this place. So again, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's donated, who will continue to donate and support us. It's really important for what we offer to the kids, the adults with disabilities and without. It's just somewhere for them to come and enjoy themselves.
We've seen it today, haven't we? You know, we've got some kids over there painting rocks, and they've been in the garden and enjoying themselves. You know, we've seen today what kind of community looks like, I guess.
It's just about socialising, you know, us with the young children and adults with disabilities, older generation coming down for a chat and a cup of tea. You know, it's just overwhelming, the support that we've got and we have had, and it can only just get better, really.
I just don't want to let these kids down. It's something I think about every day, and I've done everything in my power to save it. But if anyone's got a little few quid, you know, a pound, anything would just really, really help us save the farm and help us, you know, to help others.
Isn't it? Because it's bills like everyone, you know, bills are going up. You know, so you're suffering with that at the same time.
I mean, everyone's struggling. We understand that, so every little bit helps. But what we offer for the kids and the adults that come here, you can get that anywhere else, you know, and it's local. A lot of people can reach to and get to us as well. It's just so nice that the community comes together and supports us. So that's what it's about.
Well, guys, thank you so much for having us on the farm today. And thank you to our viewers as well. More than £10,000 has been raised thanks to your kind donations. But, of course, this farm, and like many other businesses across the country, you know, struggling with those increasing bills and increasing costs. And if you can have any money to spare and you'd like to donate towards Sandy's Farm, you can go to GoFundMe.com and just search Sandy's Farm.
Yeah, that was Jack Carlson there in Clacton. Well, loads still to come on here on GB News. You're with me, I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, Mark Field is the author of The End of an Era, The Decline and Fall of the Tory Party. And he also claims he had an affair with Liz Truss, which ruined his marriage. He'll be joining us soon. But first, let's get an update with your weather.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure dominates, lots of sunshine across the country, though there is some low cloud across the far northeast and a bit of a breeze as well, making it feel a bit cooler here. You can see high pressure sat to the north of the UK, so an easterly breeze, drawing in some cooler air from the North Sea. But the further south and west you are, it will be warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. Through into the evening time, we can see some low cloud drifting back inland across parts of northern England into eastern Scotland, but elsewhere overnight it stays dry and clear, and with some lighter winds we'll see a few mist and fog patches forming. Temperatures falling to low single figures across northern parts in particular, patchy frost possible in the countryside as well. But that does mean a lovely start to Sunday for most of us. So zooming in across Scotland, we do have some low cloud first thing though across the north and the east. This will slowly start to burn away and allow coastal stretches to become sunnier, but elsewhere dry and sunny to start Sunday morning. Northern Ireland and northern England, a few mist and fog patches first thing, but this soon clearing. Low cloud perhaps over Wales, this soon clearing as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of the country. A bit chilly though, but temperatures soon rising as the sun does too, and through the day most places having plenty of blue skies. Lots of sunshine to come, moderate UV levels across the country though. The sunshine turning hazy at times across northern England into Scotland. Low clouds still affecting Orkney and Shetland here, and temperatures a little chilly across eastern coastal, 10, 11, 12 Celsius, but further south and west reaching 18, 19 Celsius in that sunshine, so well above where they should be for the time of year, which should be around about 12 or 13 degrees. Temperatures start dropping away again Sunday evening and overnight, allowing a patchy frost in places, but high pressure holding on through much of next week. It stays dry and sunny and temperatures still above average. See you soon.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Tomorrow on GB News Breakfast, we've got a treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon. Tomorrow from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Good afternoon. It's just coming up to 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next hour, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also CEO of Youth Vote UK, Alex Cairns. In my niggle, I took on Westminster Council, or should I say Wokeminster Council, as staff have been told to undergo a privilege test. If you missed it, you can catch it on the GB News YouTube channel. And it's the words on everyone's lips this morning as US President Donald Trump's economic policy takes effect.
Tariffs, 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 tariffs. It's a beautiful word, isn't it?
UK-based car maker Jaguar Land Rover is the first to pause shipments of its cars to America worth £6.5 billion. But can our Prime Minister strike a deal? I've got a poll up online asking you whether we should be worried about Donald Trump's tariffs. Go to that poll, answer, vote right now. Nigel Farage, though, on to him. Former Reform UK, not former, he's actually the Reform UK leader. Nigel Farage is staying positive.
I actually think this could be a wake-up call that if we get it right, could really benefit us. We should start lowering tariffs for food, for products from around the world. Let's become a truly competitive economy.
And coming up in difficult conversations, joining me, former Tory Minister Mark Field, who claims his affair with Liz Truss ruined his marriage. He said he found the former PM intoxicating, disconcerting and exhausting, not to mention at times utterly infuriating. His book, The End of an Era, The Decline and Fall of the Tory Party, has just gone live. I'm looking forward to talking to him in a matter of moments. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Nana. Good evening to you. Just after 5 o'clock, our headlines. Jaguar Land Rover is pausing shipments of its UK-made cars to the US as the fallout from President Trump's tariffs reverberates around the global economy. Well, the company says it needs time to consider how it will mitigate the cost of the 25% import levy that the US president has imposed. Exports to America account for almost a quarter of Jaguar Land Rover's 400,000 annual vehicle sales. Now, it's owned by India's Tata Motors, and the company says the temporary pause will last for a month while it develops plans for the future. It employs 38,000 people in Britain. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has spoken with President Macron of France following this week's announcements of additional tariffs. The pair, who met in London recently as part of the Coalition of the Willing, spoke as Donald Trump's 10% tariff on UK products came into force. That was earlier today. The 20% on the EU comes in on the 9th of April. Downing Street said the pair shared concerns about the economic and security impact of the measures, and they agreed a trade war was in nobody's interest, but also said nothing should be off the table. That's in terms of a response. They also shared their concerns about the global impact and the global security impact, particularly in Southeast Asia. Now, there have been a number of anti-Trump demonstrations taking place across Europe and the US. This is in London. Hands off is what the protest is called. Also in Paris earlier today, they've been standing up for democracy, demonstrators, after Donald Trump threatened to invade Greenland, Canada and Panama. And they're even bigger in the United States. Some 1,000 protests planned across the country, demonstrating against what they say is an all-out assault on our government, economy and basic rights. I'll bring you pictures of those as we go through the day. A teenager's died after getting into difficulty in a lake in southeast London. Officers and paramedics were called to Beckenham Place Park in Lewisham shortly after 3 p.m. on Friday. Police say the search for the 15-year-old boy was then stopped after the body was found on Friday night. Specialist diving teams, ambulance crews and firefighters also assisted in the search. A woman at the centre of a free speech controversy involving the United States government's been convicted of breaching a buffer zone at an abortion clinic. Livia Tosici-Bolt was sentenced to a 2-year conditional discharge after she broke a public spaces protection order on 2 occasions. The 64-year-old was holding a sign saying, "Here to talk if you want," near the abortion clinic in Bournemouth last year. A little earlier, we spoke to her lawyer.
But what I find really disappointing is that it's taken the US State Department to comment on the censorship crisis in this country. We had Number 10 referring to Livia's case as something that may well portray harassment. So equating peaceful behaviour as harassment is a despicable lack of leadership.
The National Fire Chiefs Council has warned it needs long-term and sustained investment to cope with the increased demand on its services after wildfires across the UK this week. This year so far, the UK has seen 286 wildfires. That's over 100 more than in the same period in 2022. And that was a year that saw record-breaking temperatures. Now, these pictures are of a wildfire in Dorset a couple of days ago. And, of course, the country's been experiencing warmer and drier weather this week, and there's more predicted for next week. Crews in Scotland have also been battling blazes in Galloway. That spanned an area of 1.5 miles on Friday. So if you're out having picnics, be careful. Nick Rockett, trained by Willie Mullins and ridden by his son Patrick, has won the Grand National at Aintree. The 33-1 shot led home a 1-2-3 past the post for the champion trainer Mullins. The 2024 winner, Aya Maximus, was second, with Grange Clare West third. Willie Mullins, a great day for him. He had 5 of the top 7. And a Grand National win for his son, Patrick, who is an amateur jockey. And also the winning owner, great day for him. Stuart Andrew will take home a little bit more than £500,000. There was great weather at Aintree for the race, lovely and warm. And those conditions are expected to continue across the country next week. Above average temperatures this weekend then. You've probably been out enjoying some of them. And the same expected for next weekend, although, as we mentioned, the risk of those wildfires is still possible, so keep an eye out. 21 degrees high earlier today in southeast England. The Met Office says the sunshine getting stronger every day, which is nice if you're having some Easter holidays in the UK this coming week. That's it for the moment. More from me at 5:30.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon, 7 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you've just tuned in, you should have tuned in at 3. That's when we start, but it's fair enough. I'm glad you're here. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, Sir Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron have discussed their concerns about the global economic and security impact in the wake of Donald Trump's tariffs. They agreed that a trade war was in nobody's interests. Then, difficult conversations. Joining me, the former Tory minister, Mark Field. He's written a book, It's the End of an Era, The Rise and Fall of the Tory Party. And he claims that his affair with Liz Truss ruined his marriage. He said that he found the former Prime Minister intoxicating, disconcerting and exhausting, not to mention at times utterly infuriating. Then, for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, are the bankrupt Labour Council to blame for the bin strikes? With over 17,000 tonnes of rubbish now collected on the Birmingham streets, there are now, and when I say now collected, I don't mean collected as in collected by the bin men. There are now fears that rats could be as big as cats or even sheep. Send us your thoughts, your comments at gbnews.com/your say. So Downing Street has confirmed that Sir Keir Starmer has held talks with French President Emmanuel Macron following Donald Trump's decision to impose tariffs on British and EU goods earlier this week. The pair reportedly agreed that a trade war was in nobody's interest and expressed their concerns about the economic and security impact of the tariffs, particularly in Southeast Asia. This follows Jaguar Land Rover's decision to pause shipments of its British-made cars to America as the fallout from Donald Trump's tariffs reverberates around the global economy. Stock markets around the world have plunged to new lows, with the London's FTSE 100 suffering the worst day losses seen in 5 years. But the US president is so far refusing to walk back on the tariffs, insisting instead that only the weak will fall. Well, let's get the thoughts of now former Assistant US Commerce Secretary Mary Jo Jacoby. Mary, thank you very much for joining us. Mary, how are the United States seeing these tariffs being imposed? We're seeing protests around the world, including in America. How are they... is it a majority view, or is it just a minority who are just protesting and not happy? Just in your mind.
I think at the moment there is a lot of interest, tariff. There's a lot of concern. I think that the degree of outrage that you're seeing in the streets today in Washington and London and all across America really is a group of people, a rather large group of people who don't agree with anything Donald Trump does, and they're going to take it to the streets regardless. You can see the combination of hands off on tariff, hands off on this, hands off on that, Greenland, the Panama Canal, etc. So what you see is a combination of issues that have irritated a lot of people. I don't think that the president's going to take a lot of note of it because he's used to it. I mean, this was a common occurrence throughout his first term.
It's interesting, though, what he's actually doing is what he said he would do. He's putting America first. And him bringing industry in-house, so all those other companies that are sort of exporting their stuff and America importing them, he's saying that there will be no tariff if you actually do your business from the United States, which can only be a good thing for the American people. Are people not seeing that?
They are not seeing that. And I don't think that that message has come across. And the word that is missing in this debate is reciprocal. And the president said this week, you do it to us and we'll do it to you. But it is reciprocal. All of these tariffs are bad if the U.S. imposes them. They've been imposed by the U.S. or are being imposed by the U.S. in retaliation, in reciprocity for tariffs that already exist against U.S. exports to other countries. The U.S. trade deficit right now is almost $1 trillion, $918 billion at the end of last year. Why is that okay? And why should the U.S. be, frankly, the dumping ground for inexpensive, some would say cheap goods from overseas, particularly from China, and not be able to ship its products elsewhere? Reciprocity is what's missing from the debate.
And there's been lots here in the UK, people have been saying things like, oh, well, we don't want to eat chlorinated chicken and it's coming from the States. Look, you don't have to eat it. You don't have to eat anything. But, you know, lettuce and things are all chlorinated. The water is chlorinated. There's a lot of chlorine in things to kill germs and bacteria. And I guess if you don't want to eat chlorinated chicken, then don't eat it. But in terms of what the US export, are the Americans not concerned, because some of the other countries like China have already imposed certain tariffs as well, that those businesses may really feel the brunt of these tariffs?
Well, there is a great deal of concern. And when you talk to individual business people, they are worried about inventory that they have on the loading dock overseas that hasn't come in yet, that's going to be affected by these tariffs, the 10% that took effect at midnight, the larger amounts that will take effect later this month. But what most people say is, number one, the president isn't doing anything that he didn't say he was going to do. Number two, the twin deficits, trade and budget, are unacceptable. Therefore, tariffs and DOGE and the tax bill that is working its way through Congress all become very, very important. And what is also lost in this debate is the 2/3 of Americans who don't have university degrees, who are reliant on some of these lower paid, lower skilled jobs that have been lost over the last 20 years, 30 years, 40 years to overseas manufacturers. What the president wants to do, and it's very simple, is level the playing field. And if other countries don't want to pay the U.S. tariffs, they have two choices. They can lower their own tariffs and non-tariff trade barriers, or they can move their manufacturing to the United States. I would suggest to Sir Keir to start a negotiation, not with Emmanuel Macron, with Donald Trump, who can actually do something about it, and try to get a level playing field between the UK, which is already enjoying a preferential position, versus Europe, 10 versus 20%. Get that playing field level so that British exports will be welcomed to the United States and American exports will be welcomed to the United Kingdom. Why doesn't somebody pick up the phone to RFK Jr. and talk about the hormones in American beef or the chlorine in American chicken and look for ways to get those out so that the UK can then welcome American meat?
Yeah.
Seems simple to me.
It does seem quite simple. I'm not sure why everyone's having such a nightmare over it. He's opened the trading floor, as it were, for negotiation. If people want a lower tariff, then they can come and negotiate. That's how it works. I'm not quite sure why there's such outrage at him doing exactly what he said he was going to do. I think that's probably the outrage, actually, to be fair, Mary, a politician who's actually doing what he said he would do. Do you know what I mean?
How dare he? How dare he fulfill his promises? Unacceptable.
And what about Elon Musk? I just want to ask about him, because he was obviously heading up Doge, and now he is being affected by people being horrible about his cars, and the left, and I would say those who don't like Donald Trump and don't like Elon Musk, are trying to cut back on waste, are trying to destroy his business.
Yes, and Elon Musk came in at his own expense, on his own commitment. He is a special government employee. He's not receiving any kind of payment for his work and the work of his Doge team. He said at the outset, and he reiterated a couple of weeks ago, that he was here to do a specific job, which is find $1 trillion in savings from waste, fraud, and abuse. He's found several $100 billion already. When he hits the $1 trillion mark, or when he hits the 130-day limit for a special government employee, he will return to his roles at Tesla and his other companies, SpaceX and X, and he will be an informal advisor to the president. The DOGE project, however, the Department of Government Efficiency project, will continue and will be embedded in the cabinet agencies. Once that $1 trillion mark is achieved, or the 130 days comes, whichever comes first, and I'm betting on the $1 trillion.
Yeah, well, he's the perfect person to be given that job, and he's, as far as I can see, doing a good job and making the decisions that need to be made. Well, listen, it's really good to talk to you, Mary Jo Jacobi, much appreciated. She's the former Assistant US Commerce Secretary, and she joins us live from Washington, D.C. Thank you very much. Well, what are your thoughts? gbnews.com/your say. I'd love to get your thoughts on everything and all the topics we're discussing. But stay with me, because next it's time for Difficult Conversations, where I'll be joined by the former Tory minister turned author Mark Field. He's written the book The End of an Era, The Rise and Fall of the Tory Party, and he claims his affair with the former Prime Minister, Liz Truss, she was only there for 49 days, ruined his life. Stay tuned. He's on...
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get the book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Can you find love in your twilight years? That's what we're asking this morning. Broadcaster Ryan Mark Parsons and former Conservative MP Anne Widdecombe join us now. Good to see you both this morning. Anne, let's start with you. Is 70 too old to date, do you think?
70 isn't too old for anything.
Oh.
Everybody ages at different rates, both mentally, physically, in the sorts of things they like. When you say to me, is 80 too late to, is 70, well, we might even say 80. It's too late to find love. The answer is just look around you. Lots of people have. But let me say right away, and no, that's not an invitation. I've absolutely no ambitions in that area at all.
Ryan Mark, what do you make of it? Do we need to stop putting a bar on ageing and dating?
No, I don't think we should. I think once you get to such an old age, you really should be looking for love internally. I mean, you should self-love. I just don't see the point at 70 years old to be searching for love at that point. I think you should go on holiday somewhere. I think you should find love with the sunshine and a cocktail, perhaps, instead of looking for a man or a woman. I think at what point do you decide that, you know, love is not going to come around knocking on your door? And I think probably at the age of 70, that is when you should decide it's time to give up. I'm 24, living in London. I know how incredibly hard it is to find love. I don't know how anyone who has wrinkles and grey hair at the age of 70, over someone like me, could perhaps find love. I just don't think it's possible. I think it's a nice idea, but I think it's not feasible. And also, I don't think there's any point at that age.
The People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. I mean, maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, 21 minutes after 5 o'clock. If you just tuned in, where have you been? We started the show at 3 o'clock. You're literally near the end, but it's fine because you've tuned in at literally the best bit, because it's time for this week's Difficult Conversations. And today I'm joined by former Conservative Minister and now author Mark Field. Since leaving Parliament, he's written a book about the rise and fall of the Conservative Party entitled The End of an Era. Mark Field joins me now in the studio.
Great to see you again.
It's good to talk
I'm sorry
to you.
if you've lost a few of your viewers today because of the Grand National being on and everything else, but only for 20 minutes or so, I'm sure.
It's only for 20 minutes. They'll all be back, because I know they all can't wait to hear what you have to say about the Tory party, because what a shocker. I voted for the Conservative Party. I am definitely a Conservative person, and I was horrified, in particular of the last 5 years, and the way they behaved. They literally did nothing, because all they did was focus on themselves and who would lead the party.
I think there was a lot of internal fighting that hasn't impressed people, and I think it's quite badly damaged the brand of the Conservative Party as a result. I was MP for almost 20 years, right up until 2019, so I've been out for a time. And in many ways, it was only being out of Parliament that gave me the perspective to look at this in a different light. And obviously, I talk a little bit about my own life, and obviously 20 years as an MP, but 40 or 50 years as a Conservative Party sympathiser and activist, and really the changes that have taken place in that time. And as you know, there were some high-profile scrapes that I had during my time in Parliament, which one or two have made the serialisations of my friendship with Elizabeth Truss, obviously issues around David Cameron's Piggate scandal and elsewhere. And so they're all mentioned in the book, but it's about 400 pages long as a whole. And, we're in a fascinating, interesting time in global affairs. And, in fact, you've touched on tariffs. And as you may know, during the latter time of my time as an MP, I was a Minister of State in the Foreign Office for Asia and the Pacific. So I had specific responsibilities for the China and the India relationship. And I think the one lesson I would learn about tariffs, and I agreed with what Nigel Farage had to say on your earlier clip, and I think you're absolutely right when you talk about the idea of, all the talk about chlorinated chicken is really just protectionism from our own farming industry as well. Tariffs are a bad thing for everyday consumers, because ultimately prices rise, there's less free trade. And the UK has traditionally been a free trading nation, as indeed is the US. And of course, part of our trade, unfortunately, means we've got a very big trade deficits. And that, I think, is where the nub of the problem really arises. And my worry is that the retaliation that might come, particularly from China, may have some very bad impacts on the UK. I mean, one of the ways, of course, they might retaliate is in relation to the fact that we've got a huge debt pile. We have a debt now of about £3 trillion. The American debt is around about $35 to $40 trillion. And that, of course, that debt has to be paid for, and it's being paid for by the Chinas, the Indias, the Middle Eastern nations of this world. And we have to be very careful that their noses aren't put out of joint, because if we expect them to continue to pay for our living beyond our means, it's going to be very difficult.
But really, though, Donald Trump is almost kind of rearranging the world order, as I see it. And there does need to be a shake-up of it, because one of the things that a lot of countries are taking advantage of are the cheap prices and the goods in China.
Sure.
China literally are running the world, in a sense, because if they stop providing those goods, then we're all
obviously they need to provide and part of the issue with China, of course, it joined the World Trade Organization, which is the rule-making body back in 2001, so almost 25 years ago. And one of the difficulties China has had is actually to get its own consumers an internal market working, which is why it needs to export so much of its goods. So yes, there is that great sense of interdependency. But you're right, we do need a shake-up. And in many ways, I mean, Donald Trump is much more blatant than many former American presidents have been, because actually the truth about America is that it has put America first for a long time. And Donald Trump's great hero is William McKinley, who was the president at the turn of the 19th to 20th centuries. But you look at a whole raft of presidents since then, they've been far less blatant than Donald Trump has been. And I think where, I have a lot of sympathy for Keir Starmer's position. I think he's doing his best in very difficult circumstances. But the trouble is with Donald Trump, he's very unpredictable. So you never quite know what he's going to do tomorrow. And although we have an idea that it's 10% tariffs, who knows where it might be come the future. But where I think Trump is right is that the global trading situation does need something of a shake-up. Where I think we perhaps have not had our eye on the ball over the last 2 or 3 years is that we were well aware of what Trump was going to be like if he got back in. This doesn't come as a surprise. There was an assumption, I think, that he was talking tough to get re-elected, but wouldn't necessarily deliver on it. I think the one thing we've learned is that he's hit the ground running, having got re-elected, and many of the mistakes and the slow pace of his first term have not been repeated this time round.
Well, I mean, look, I think that actually Joe Biden was even less predictable because he didn't know what he was doing, to be honest.
I think you're spot on with that. And in many ways, Biden was more of a continuity to Trump Mark I than many give him credit for.
But what Trump is after is reindustrialization of the United States so that they actually own all the means of production and there's more internal markets. Yeah. And that's actually what we all need to start doing so we're more self-sufficient. In particular, this country, we were the leaders of industrialization. We had the Industrial Revolution. We brought all these amazing gadgets and inventions to the world, and yet we sold off everything that would make us sustainable in our own rights. So this is a wake-up call, I think, for us.
I think there's a lot of truth in that, and obviously the classic economic theory, David Ricardo, who was a British economist going back over 2 centuries, who had the whole idea of the competitive advantage that meant that you should have as much free trade as possible. But again, the wake-up call that all of us had, I think, from 5 years ago was with COVID, and we could probably. I have similar views to you. I think that the lockdown was a big mistake. I think we went overboard. The whole of the Western world did. It might have been very difficult for the UK government to be an outlier. So I think give some credit to Boris Johnson's government. It was a very difficult call that he had to make. But all of that made us realise the vulnerability of having just-in-time supply lines that were across the globe. And so we have all had a mindset, as you say, of wanting to be a little bit more self-sufficient. The trouble is, it's a very different economic model globally to the one that we've been used to, and it's going to take, it's going to be difficult, I think, for us to adapt to that here in the UK in the months and years ahead.
So what do you think are the immediate repercussions of this tariff?
Well, I think one of the immediate repercussions is, I think we're going to have higher inflation in this country for some time to come, and that means that all the hopes that many have had about getting interest rates down anytime soon, I think are going to be a bit of a pipe dream.
But isn't that one of the mechanisms that they could use? Well, bring down interest rates. It may fuel inflation, but it may not, because we need to get some growth. We need people spending.
Sure, and I think, as you say, that's the concern. Is the tariffs, I'm afraid, are a counter to the growth policy that the government wanted to have in place. And I think the government, obviously, part of that growth would have been to see a relatively swift reduction of interest rates from the levels they've been at. I think the other thing one has to remember, we had these ultra-low interest rates after the financial crash, and they were the exception rather than the rule, when we had this period of almost 14 years with interest rates of 1% or low. And the trouble really is, and looking at some of your viewers who are in their 20s or 30s, they assumed that those ultra-low rates were the norm, and so they took their borrowing and taking out their mortgage on that basis. And in many ways, higher rates are probably here to stay, and they have been the norm, going back many decades.
15% or so. I remember that. I remember that.
We're of the generation who got very fearful of suddenly thinking, how on earth can we repay our mortgage over that period of time? But I think that is one of the impacts of what is like to happen with this tariffs, is that it is going to put some pressure on inflation, and therefore I think the Bank of England, which is notionally independent, is going to be very reluctant to bring rates down as quickly as the Treasury might like to get our growth going.
I think they should bring them down super sharpish, get some growth, get people buying, get consumers out there, and then maybe we'll start to see the economy flourish, and then we'll hopefully...
Well, amidst all the other nonsense, there's actually quite a lot of there's quite a lot of that stuff in the book. I mean, as you can imagine, I was the MP for the City of London as well as being a Foreign Office Minister, so these issues were close to my heart, all the issues around economic growth, the lack of productivity that we've got. So I retell some of the stories of what's happened in the last 20 years and give some thoughts as to how things might play out. I think one of the exciting things for anyone who's in the political journalism world is get your seatbelt on and be ready for the ride, because I don't think we know what's going to happen with Donald Trump, other than that it's likely to be very unpredictable.
So your book, The End of an Era, the rise and fall of the Tory party. If you could give them a piece of advice now, the Tory party, and Kemi Bates not leading it, what advice would you...
I am still a member. I think in many ways,
the MPs...
do the right thing. and be patient. And it's very difficult. I appreciate when you're in opposition, everyone expects you to push back on the government at the time, and clearly the Labour government has struggled in the 8 months much more quickly than we thought they would. But sometimes you've got to be patient. I think the other bit of advice I would say is remember, as well as focusing Tory guns at Reform UK, the Liberal Democrats gained 10 times as many seats from the Conservatives at the last election, and they're going to be a very big opposition in the southwest of England and in much of the home counties.
Well, I'm not so sure with the antics of Ed Davey. I mean, it seems like he's discredited them, sadly. So the end of an era, that was... Is this your first book that you've written?
It's actually my third, funny enough. I wrote 2 books when I was an MP that were collections of essays called Between the Crashes and The Best of Times, which were, very much looking at economics and a bit of geopolitics. This, of course, is a bit more of a memoir, but also, having been a Foreign Office Minister, there's more of the geopolitics there. And, as I say, that sense that the UK has got an interesting time ahead. We have vulnerabilities, but we are a great country. And, I'm very, very proud, as I'm sure you are.
I am.
I have, like you, I've got sort of some foreign blood in my veins. My late mother was German, but I think this is still a fantastic country. But we have to recognise that we're not quite the exceptional country that we felt we were perhaps when we had an empire and we were ruling the waves.
It's fascinating, Mark. Thank you so much. It's really good to talk to you.
Nana, lovely to chat to you, and hopefully come back again soon.
Yes, please. Hopefully you'll be on my panel. I'd love to get you on there.
We'll do that. That's great.
That is the brilliant Mark Field. He wrote the book The End of an Era, The Rise and the Fall of the Tory Party. You're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio, 32 minutes after 5 o'clock. Coming up, my great British debate, I'm asking, are the bankrupt Labour Council to blame for the bin strikes? But first, let's get your latest news with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Nana. Good afternoon to you. Good evening, I should say, 5:30 or just after. The luxury car maker Jaguar Land Rover says it will pause shipments to the US as Donald Trump's tariffs take hold. The company, which employs 38,000 people in Britain, says it needs time to consider how to mitigate the cost of the 25% import tax. Now, Jaguar Land Rover sells 100,000 cars to the US every year. The States is the second biggest importer of British-made cars after the EU, with nearly a 20% share. Meanwhile, the Prime Minister has spoken to President Macron of France this afternoon following the announcement of the additional tariffs by the US. The pair, who met recently in London as part of the coalition of the willing, spoke as Donald Trump's 10% tariff on the UK comes into effect today. For the EU, well, the 20% tariff comes in on the 9th of April. They shared concerns, the pair, over the economic and security impact. When they spoke earlier, they agreed that a trade war was in no one's interests, but also said nothing is off the table. This from Downing Street. The Prime Minister and President shared their concerns about the impact in Southeast Asia particularly, and they're going to stay in close contact about tariffs and indeed the coalition of the willing, that's peacekeeping forces for Ukraine, over the coming weeks.
Push the United States of America.
Well, there have been a number of anti-Trump demonstrations taking place across Europe today and indeed across the United States. They're called Hands Off. Demonstrators standing up for democracy, they say, after Trump's threats to invade Greenland, Canada and Panama. They're protesting against him and indeed Elon Musk. And they say they're demonstrating against an all-out assault on our government, economy and basic rights. Now, there's 1,000 of them taking place across the US, and I'll bring you pictures of those as we go through the evening. The teenagers died after getting into difficulty at a lake in southeast London. Officers and paramedics were called to Beckenham Place Park in Lewisham on Friday afternoon. Police say they stopped a search for a missing 15-year-old when a body was found on Friday night. Specialist diving teams, ambulance crews and firefighters all took part in the search. Nick Rockett, trained by Willie Mullins and ridden by his son Patrick, has won the Grand National at Aintree. The 33-1 shot led home a 1-2-3 past the post for the champion trainer Mullins. And a great race for him. 2024 winner I Am Maximus came second, Grange Clare West third. Mullins, in fact, had 5 of the top 7. So if you backed his horses with each way bets, you're probably quite happy this evening. The winning owner, Stuart Andrew, he's even happier. He earns more than £500,000 thanks to the victory. That's it for the moment. I'll be back with more at the top of the next hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Tomorrow on GB News Breakfast, we've got a treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon. Tomorrow from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
The royal family is an enduring symbol of tradition, unity and pride for Britain. At GB News, we celebrate what makes this country great. In our new Royal Newsletter series, you can join me, Cameron Walker, for Inside the Palace, an exclusive look every week that takes you beyond the gates and brings you the very latest from those at the heart of the monarchy. Never miss a royal moment again. Sign up now. Go to gbnews.com/royal newsletter and get the latest straight to your inbox.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as
and now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
.39 after 5 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Don't forget as well, you can download the GB News app. It is completely free and you can check out all the programmes on the channel at your leisure. But it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, are the bankrupt Labour Council to blame for the bin strikes? With over 17,000 tonnes of rubbish now uncollected on Birmingham streets as a result of the bin workers' strike, there are now fears rats as big as cats and even sheep are now littering the streets. Whilst Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner claims 14 years of Tory neglect, oh, here we go again, and austerity, they're probably fixing the foundations of what to blame. Others point the finger at the bankrupt Labour-run Birmingham City Council and its terrible handling of its finances. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, are the bankrupt Labour Council to blame for the bin strikes? Well, joining me now, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy, and also CEO of Youth Vote UK, Alex Cairns. Alex Cairns, I will start with you.
I think that there are quite a lot of poorly run councils. I think it's quite convenient now that everyone's looking at Birmingham and deciding that, Labour can't run any councils and they've, driven it into the ground,
But they have.
Well, they've made some poor choices, yes, but I think at local government level, all across the country, by the way, I reckon if you ask residents in all parts of the country, are you happy with your local council? I reckon lots of them, whether it's a Tory ran or Lib Dem or Labour, they would say that there's failings at all levels, you know? So I think, yes, Labour haven't done a good job.
There's a big rat there. Oh! If you're listening on radio...
If you're squeamish, don't look.
It's a cat, a rat the size of a cat. I think it looks dead. I don't think it's alive. No, there's a foot next to it, and the rat is the same size as someone's foot. That's not as big as a cat, is it?
That is humongous.
But that is a big foot, and that...
Anyway, can we take a
carry on. Carry on.
I hate rats. But, no, look, I'm not happy with Labour in Birmingham. I think they made some poor decisions, and I'll be the first to admit that. But I think we need to remember that I think across the country, there's lots of local councils that... You know, frankly, some of the people that run to become a councillor and then run to become leader of the council, they don't know what they're doing. Some of them have literally been lifelong local politicians, have got no experience in business, no experience in pretty much anything, and make some poor decisions. So, you know, I want to see some better candidates, and that's why I want some younger, fresher, you know, meat on the bone that will come in and hopefully give some fresh ideas, hopefully.
Fresh ideas, but right now there's nothing fresh in Birmingham. I mean, it stinks, it's terrible, they're struggling.
I see what you did there, yeah.
See what I did? Dizzy Candy.
This is a disaster. It's a health hazard. These rats are bigger than dogs. It's awful. My friends in Birmingham, and this, honestly, I was trying to get her on the show for you, Nana. One came in her house. They actually came downstairs, and it was sitting there, and she said it was bigger than a dog, and it's nibbled all through their electrics, and the stench of this rubbish in this hot weather, it is awful. It's supposed to be Great Britain. This is a disaster and it's a health hazard. Hang their heads in shame. Stop blaming 40 years of Tory rule. If I hear that again, stop. It's like a broken record. Do something. This is not fair on the British, on how this looks worldwide, God knows.
Should they send in the army, do you think, to clear the rubbish?
I actually think they have to send in the army. I'm sorry. This is... If anyone has been to Birmingham and seen this and smelt it, it's... The rats are getting bigger because they're feeding off all the food. They're like super rats. And it's disgraceful. So, and I think we have to call the army in. And
we're not going to call the army in. Don't be so dramatic.
What do you mean, don't be so dramatic?
You're being so dramatic. You're going to bring the army in.
You go to Birmingham.
It's not some Netflix show. What are they going to do? Get rid of the bins?
Yeah,
no, they're just...
You be a resident in Birmingham.
So listen.
It's not the whole of Birmingham, though, is it?
Well, listen, the council, there are billions in debt. Let's just have a guess at how much the managing director of Birmingham City Council, Joanne Rooney, earns as a salary. How much do you think she earns?
£100,000?
I reckon 150,000.
OK, £295,000 a year.
But there are...
Now, hold on.
Yeah?
OK, she's not alone. All right, let's see, what about... Who else have we got? The chief executive, how much do you think they get paid?
£150,000.
Well, in the range of £186,000 to £227,000.
That's a disgrace. That's a disgrace.
But why is it a disgrace?
Because they're not doing anything. Where are the people's tax money going to the council tax? They will want a rebate. People there are so distraught. They're in a high cost of living. They're having to kind of club together to get skips. Where is their council tax going, Alex? This should not be happening in this great country of ours. It's going to pot. No wonder everyone's wanting to leave this country. It's disgusting.
You need to pay a lot of money to get good people into senior positions, right? So the salary thing, everyone always bangs on about that. But
she's not very good, though, is she?
No, well, on this specific issue, she needs to get...
This is one... Listen, you get tested on different elements. This is one thing, £295,000 a year. You can't sort that out.
Yeah.
You can't sort that out. I mean, that's just absolutely horrendous. You should be fired.
Have you ever had a rat in your house? Because I have.
I have as well.
And it isn't my...
I don't want to.
The green flies come first. You don't realise it's there. The thing is, I didn't realise this was there, and it had been there probably for almost a year.
No,
I'm sure there are rats in Tory councils as well. Don't worry, guys.
It was a dead rat.
Listen, I had a rat in my house. I'm not talking about my ex-husband. It was ghastly. It was honestly, and the smell, it was awful. And when there's one rat, there'll be more. And this is a health hazard. This is really serious. Yes, bring the army in. Bring the army in now. And they need to be... Someone needs to be held to account.
Well, maybe they should get a load of young people. Perhaps you can round up some people from Youth Vote UK
maybe we should get some of the Tory MPs that lost their seats. They can come and help. What are they doing at the moment?
How about some of the councillors from Birmingham City Council themselves and perhaps Joanne Rooney? Rooney, the head of the Birmingham City Council.
No, what needs to happen?
Even.
What needs to happen? They have to come to a resolution with all of the bin collections.
They need to clear that now, because that's a health hazard. So they can come to a resolution whenever they like, but clear out the rubbish first for the health and safety of the residents, because that is the rule. They're still paying their council tax, and so whilst they're still paying their council tax, these people, whatever means possible, they need to clear up the rubbish first.
Fine.
It's a health hazard.
But we're not going to send the army in. That's ridiculous.
Well, the problem is you've got the striking bin workers who are standing in front of the agency workers' bin trucks, so they can't remove the rubbish. So it's absolutely a real sorry state of affairs. But look, the Minister of State for Local Government and English Devolution, Jim McMahon, said it is in the interests of the parties and, most importantly, Birmingham's residents that this strike must be brought to a close, with all parties redoubling efforts to get around the table to find a resolution. And the leader of Birmingham City Council, John Cotton, said, "I respect the right to strike and protest. However, actions on the picket line must be lawful, and sadly the behaviour of some now means we are seeing significant impact on residents and the city's environment." So that is, of course, bin workers standing in front of the agency workers, who are paid more than them, by the way, to clear the bins. Right, coming up, my quickfire quiz. I'm going to test the panel on some of the other stories that caught my eye this week. Do not go anywhere.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure dominates, lots of sunshine across the country, though there is some low cloud across the far northeast and a bit of a breeze as well, making it feel a bit cooler here. You can see high pressure sat to the north of the UK, so an easterly breeze, drawing in some cooler air from the North Sea. But the further south and west you are, it will be warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. Through into the evening time, we can see some low cloud drifting back inland across parts of northern England into eastern Scotland, but elsewhere overnight it stays dry and clear, and with some lighter winds we'll see a few mist and fog patches forming, temperatures falling to low single figures across northern parts in particular, patchy frost possible in the countryside as well. But that does mean a lovely start to Sunday for most of us. So zooming in across Scotland, we do have some low cloud first thing though across the north and the east. This will slowly start to burn away and allow coastal stretches to become sunnier, but elsewhere dry and sunny to start Sunday morning. Northern Ireland and northern England, a few mist and fog patches first thing, but this soon clearing. Low cloud perhaps over Wales, this soon clearing as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of the country. A bit chilly though, but temperatures soon rising as the sun does too, and through the day most places having plenty of blue skies. Lots of sunshine to come, moderate UV levels across the country though, the sunshine turning hazy at times across northern England into Scotland. Low clouds still affecting Orkney and Shetland here, and temperatures a little chilly across eastern coastal, 10, 11, 12 Celsius, but further south and west reaching 18, 19 Celsius in that sunshine, so well above where they should be for the time of year, which should be around about 12 or 13 degrees. Temperatures start dropping away again Sunday evening and overnight, allowing a patchy frost in places, but high pressure holding on through much of next week. It stays dry and sunny, and temperatures still above average. See you soon.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Headliners on GB News 11 p.m. every night. It's got 3 top comedians going through the next day's newspapers so you don't have to read them, which is great.
That's a good point. He's lying. Maybe he's not lying.
That's Headliners every night from 11 p.m. and 5 a.m. as well on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, it's time for the quickfire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines. Lizzie Cundy joins me. Lizzie, your buzzer, please. And Alex Cairns, your buzzer, please. Please play along at home. Let's do this. Question 1. Who won the Grand National? Open question. Lizzie Cundy.
Rocket Mullins.
Push your button.
What's
the answer? No. The answer is Nick Rocket. I'm not going to give it any of that because that's Rocket Mullins, like a Charlie
Mullins is the donkey.
Right, question 2, closest answer wins. This week, US President Donald Trump announced a full list of Liberation Day tariffs. The United Kingdom was hit with a 10% tariff, but how high was the one for British territory, the Falkland Islands? Alex?
63%.
Lizzie Cundy?
60.
All right, the answer is 41%. Lizzie Cundy, you'll take that. That's 1-0. Question 3, true or false? Parts of the UK are enjoying soaring temperatures, with Edinburgh being hotter than the Spanish island Ibiza. True or false? Lizzie Cundy?
True.
False.
The answer is false.
Yeah.
It's 2-1. Edinburgh is actually 9 degrees Celsius, with Ibiza hitting highs of 19 degrees Celsius.
Darn it!
Come on, Edinburgh. It's not going to be 19 degrees, is it, Lizzie? Come on.
Well, it's hot out there.
Could be. I was in Edinburgh.
It's
though.
so
That was
hot.
beautiful, but not 19.
Not against Ibiza.
Especially
Not
with their
now.
wind. Yeah.
Not now. All right. Question 4. I remember when I went to Ibiza, I said, "Come on, son, do your worst." I actually got burnt. I was like, "What?" It wasn't even hot. It was the wind. Question 4. Open question. King Charles welcomed the Vegetable Orchestra to Buckingham Palace, but which vegetable was he playing? Alex.
Carrot.
The carrot.
Carrot.
It was. It wasn't a swede. It was, in fact, a carrot.
I saw Stephen
Have a look at this.
Have a look.
Oh, Nana, quite the performance.
I think you've done that before, Cameron.
Have I? What, playing the recorder, Stephen?
Yes, it was a carrot. 2-2. OK, question 5. This is the decider. Which golfer taped up his mouth after losing his place on a prestigious PGA tour? Was it A, Tiger Woods, B, Matthew Fitzpatrick, or C, Ryan McCormack? Lizzie Cundy.
A, Tiger Woods.
Ryan
McCormack.
Oh, you said Ryan, but I don't know what the answer is. The answer is, it actually is Ryan McCormack. I think, does he beat you then? Or is it
yeah, of course.
He beats you. Oh, my God.
Can't beat me, mate.
God,
can't be the lefty.
No.
I can't believe
He's been the most lefty. Well,
lefty.
listen, throughout the show, I've been asking, should Britain be worried about Donald Trump's tariffs? According to our GB News poll, 25% of you say yes and 75% of you say no. Well, I'm with you. Thank you so much to my fabulous panel, broadcaster and columnist Lizzie Cundy.
Thank you.
And also CEO of Youth Vote UK, Alex Cairns, for joining me today. And a huge thank you to you for your company. I'm looking forward to seeing you tomorrow, same time, same place, 3 o'clock. Be there or be square. But stay tuned, do not go anywhere, because up next, it's the Saturday 5.
Yes, hello guys, Saturday 5 coming up. Alex Armstrong is here, but he's not actually hosting the show. He's hosting 9 o'clock. On the Saturday 5, we've got a new kid on the block. This is Trey Lowe. It's all coming up shortly, but first, here is your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. High pressure dominates, lots of sunshine across the country, though there is some low cloud across the far northeast and a bit of a breeze as well, making it feel a bit cooler here. You can see high pressure sat to the north of the UK, so an easterly breeze, drawing in some cooler air from the North Sea. But the further south and west you are, it will be warm with temperatures well above average for the time of year. Through into the evening time, we can see some low cloud drifting back inland across parts of northern England into eastern Scotland, but elsewhere overnight it stays dry and clear, and with some lighter winds we'll see a few mist and fog patches forming, temperatures falling to low single figures across northern parts in particular, patchy frost possible in the countryside as well. But that does mean a lovely start to Sunday for most of us. So zooming in across Scotland, we do have some low cloud first thing though across the north and the east. This will slowly start to burn away and allow coastal stretches to become sunnier, but elsewhere dry and sunny to start Sunday morning. Northern Ireland and northern England, a few mist and fog patches first thing, but this soon clearing. Low cloud perhaps over Wales, this soon clearing as well, and lots of sunshine across the rest of the country. A bit chilly though, but temperatures soon rising as the sun does too, and through the day most places having plenty of blue skies. Lots of sunshine to come, moderate UV levels across the country though, the sunshine turning hazy at times across northern England into Scotland, low clouds still affecting Orkney and Shetland here, and temperatures a little chilly across eastern coastal, 10, 11, 12 Celsius, but further south and west reaching 18, 19 Celsius in that sunshine, so well above where they should be. be for the time of year, which should be around about 12 or 13 degrees. Temperatures start dropping away again Sunday evening and overnight, allowing a patchy frost in places, but high pressure holding on through much of next week. It stays dry and sunny and temperatures still above average. See you soon.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Tomorrow on GB News Breakfast, we've got a treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon. Tomorrow from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
Courtesy of Marquis Leisure, you could be driving away with this brand new Elnag Baron 560 motorhome. It comfortably sleeps 4, comes with sky roof, integrated kitchen and bathroom, and is worth over £67,000. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a further £5,000 in tax-free cash to make sure that wherever this motorhome takes you, it takes you there in style. For a chance to win a motorhome and cash, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB13 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 6th of June. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Tomorrow on GB News Breakfast, we've got a treat for you.
It's me, Angela Rippon.
For just one morning, the broadcast and Strictly Star joins the breakfast team to bring you all the news as it happens.
Nice positive story then.
Another special day here on GB News.
Well, we're still here after the last one.
GB News Breakfast with me, Stephen Dixon, and Angela Rippon. Tomorrow from 6.
Yes, we'll be around for a while.
The royal family is an enduring